right. Good morning. I hope you're all feeling fine, because I'm Dan D, and together we're fine and dandy. To start today's stream, I have a 4-minute clip from Betty's parole hearing. This is her 2017 parole hearing. That's the back of Betty's head you see in the inset. Start the clock here so that people who are joining the stream know that we'll be going to the trial soon. And let's start this video, and we'll say our hellos and stuff in the chat. I'll let you know I am feeling a little bit tired compared to past streams, but part of that has to do with the fact that I've done 2 of my 3 12-hour shifts. So I imagine once the 3rd of those is complete, I'll be able to recharge. I only have a little bit more marathon to go, like just over half, so I should be fine. I do have some plans for rest and relaxation on my stream-only non-work days, so don't have to worry too much about Dan D. I should be fine. Fine and dandy.
Voices in my head to completely take over. I heard all the past voices of all the bad things from my parents and my kids and Dan and everybody else, and I'm this horrible, awful, worthless failure of a human being. And then I allowed the stress of losing my house and going to jail and not having a home to put the kids, because if he throws me in jail again, I lose my house. And I was just afraid of...
Mrs. Broderick, stop right there a minute, okay? You're worried about your husband putting you in jail again. Yet, you consciously take the gun that you purchased in March, you go to the house, which you got a key to get in, okay? It's not like you knocked on the door and rang the doorbell here, okay? And said, hello, hey, can we chat? You didn't do that. You went in the back door, you knew the house well, you went to the bedroom, it's 5:30 in the morning, and you killed 2 people.
I went to Dan's house to ask him to just give me the kids and leave me the hell alone. This is too many years of this ongoing stuff. And I never got to ask him or say anything. Linda came at me, and the gun went off over and across the bed, and the physical evidence proves that. And I didn't think of anything. I wasn't thinking.
She's litigating the case.
It certainly didn't help anything.
Okay?
Yeah.
But the physical evidence doesn't show that, and you're here on a murder second.
I know.
Okay? You got convicted of this crime, all right? The evidence would show that a different thing happened here. My question is, you wrote a suicide note. How come you didn't commit suicide?
I was going
How come you didn't do it after you killed your husband,
I didn't have
your
any
ex-husband?
bullets. I didn't have any bullets left. I was just startled. It wasn't, I don't even remember pulling the trigger even once. I was just startled.
Miss Broderick, you went to that
I
home
did.
with a gun. You went to that home with a loaded gun. You went to that home uninvited at 5:30 in the morning when most people are in bed asleep. Okay? So you can see where the commissioner, can you understand where she's coming from? She lunged at you. Excuse me, you weren't even supposed to be there. You're in there with a gun.
I know.
So there was some intent to go there to do something more than just chit-chat.
He was coming right for me.
Obviously not thinking straight or thinking clearly at all. And I thought if I had the gun, I could make them listen to me.
You told me earlier you don't even remember pulling the phone from the wall.
I don't remember pulling the phone, but Dan spoke to me. Dan spoke to me without any pain or any flinching or anything. Dan said, okay, you got me. Like that. And I had no bullets left or anything. I just ran out of the room. But that's why I didn't know he was hit or anything was wrong with him. And I thought he was chasing
you got me.
And
Wow.
I was running away from Dan. He spoke to me absolutely clearly with no pain. I had no idea he was hit. I thought he was chasing me. He spoke to me clearly.
Betty, honey, dear, please, just don't unplug the phone. Allow me to call for assistance. I'm fine. There's no stress in my voice. Kind of sounds like BS.
Plainly. I have great remorse and feel terrible for all the needless, senseless pain and suffering I've caused so many. I took the lives of two wonderful people who were loved by many. For that I will be forever sorry. That was never my intention. If staying in prison longer would change something or bring them back, I would do that. But that would accomplish nothing. I can never undo or repair the damage I have done in the past. My only hope is to go forward in peace and love and try to heal this family.
Wow. I'm going to let that go on a replay for everyone who's just joining us at the 9:30.
I allowed the voices in my head to completely take.
It does say that this is part 1 of a series. Let me see. Really 9 years ago. Let's not replay this. Let's go to the next video in the series.
The murders so infamous they were made into a TV movie. And tonight, Betty Broderick, the one-time La Jolla socialite turned killer, will not be leaving her prison cell anytime soon. Denied parole for a second time.
10 News anchor Brian Schlonsky is in Corona, where the DA says that Broderick is still blaming the victims.
This case so famous it was made into 2 made-for-TV movies, including this one. The deputy DA says that Broderick...
Look at that laptop.
No remorse.
Now, this is only 9 years ago. That still looks old.
Has no regrets for what she did. That one of the reasons she won't be back up for parole for another 15 years.
Put me here because they want me to change. But what do they want me to change into? And my personal struggle will be to not let this change me.
Those words spoken by Betty Broderick more than 20 years ago from prison. Today, hearing Deputy DA Richard Sachs describe her.
No regrets, no remorse.
She has stuck to those words and hasn't changed.
To be
Just pausing here because I have a feeling anything that involves Oprah could be copyrightable, and the more I comment, less likely I am committing a non-fair usage. So there's my comments on that.
defiant, to smirk throughout the hearing, to act in complete denial and not understand where she is, why she's there, and what happened.
Where she is the California Institution for Women. As for what happened, you have to go back to the early morning hours of November 8th, 1989. Broderick used a key she took.
Really wish they would just show the denial hearing. I didn't think it would be a full news story on it. Even skip ahead a little bit.
To life in prison. Today, 2 commissioners listened for 11 hours.
11 hours?
Family members.
Whoa.
And attorneys before denying Broderick parole for another 15 years, the maximum. The DA says that lack of remorse, a big reason why.
She is blaming the victims for their own deaths, for going in there, sneaking up the stairs, 5:30 a.m., and shooting them while they slept.
The deputy DA said that 2 of her children did speak at her parole hearing. He said they were extremely upset and wouldn't get into what they said for privacy reasons, but he did add that justice was served. In Corona, Brian Schlonsky, 10 News.
All right.
The murders.
Oops, that's enough of that. So we left this video halfway through yesterday. It got pretty interesting towards the end, so I've just rewound it to the exact 1 hour and 30-minute mark, so that we can enjoy those last 5-6 minutes of testimony before we get into stuff we haven't seen yet. Okay, so I mentioned I'm feeling tired. Maybe it came off worse sounding in the text. It's just the first day that I felt I've been motivated and excited every day. And last night at work, as it was getting close to morning, I was like, oh boy, maybe I did bite off more than I can chew. But no need to worry about me at this point. I would say at this time next week, if you guys notice a slippage, if I start using 1 and 2 syllable words exclusively, let me know in the chat and I will take a break. But as it stands, I think I should be okay. I've paced the marathon slightly. So some of the longer videos, I've got 3 of the longer videos that I'm splitting into 1 of 2 and 2 and 2s, just like today's. So that should help manage the workload. But I appreciate you guys caring. we'll get this started, and then I'll start my hellos.
Admit that you had done that at Claremont Hospital?
I said I probably, have said things like that, but when particularly asked, if I've never threatened the children at all, ever.
Well, when you say I would have probably said that.
Well,
but
I
when
almost agreed to it
particularly
when you
asked-
just said it. I said a lot of things when I was mad and stuff, not meaning any of them. But
Okay.
I don't
So-
think I ever threatened the children.
And you were mad when the Knox Attorney Service was attempting to serve you with a contempt order. And so it is possible that you told Dan that you were going to kill the kids, you were going to kill him, you were going to burn the house down.
I was not mad. I was terrified. I was scared. I was alone. I had no way to defend myself against him. I was not mad. I was scared.
This was a process server who was knocking on the door to serve you with a piece of paper.
Right.
Okay. And Dan Broderick did call the process server off, didn't he? He called him, he got in touch with him, and he told him not to do it.
Yes, he did.
And the vandalism continued. The restraining order didn't work. The asking you not to do it didn't work. The attempting to serve you
Where are
with
you
a
now?
contempt
Where
order
are you?
after January of 1986. In February of 1986, that's when you went over and drove the car through the front door, correct?
Okay.
And that's when you tried to go over to Coral Reef and burn the house down and smash the sliding glass door, correct?
I'm
In
totally
February of
confused.
86?
Totally confused. But that letter was just July of 86. So now we're going backwards?
When the Knox Attorney Service attempted to serve you, it was January of 1986.
Okay. So from there,
And he wasn't able to serve you with any papers. He wasn't able to serve you with any attempted contempt action to go to court, and the vandalism did continue. Yes.
is now the knocking into his door what you're referring to as the vandalism?
Yes.
Well, I don't consider that vandalism.
Okay.
And that's a different house, and they had moved. And no, the vandalism as such in Coral Reef did not continue. They moved out.
They're now in Cyprus, and the
Yes.
driving through to the front door was at Cyprus, correct?
Yes.
And in January of 1986, when we were talking about, they were already in Cyprus, living in Cyprus.
I think so. Sometime in January 86.
And you did continue, or you began at that point, leaving the messages on his machine. That's when he put the message machine, answering machine at his house, correct?
Probably.
It was, again, that summer that you complained that Dan sent the children to camp, correct?
Yep. You're doing a great job of reminding me about all of this stuff. Because I was absolutely, as we get it in order and it all comes back the way it was, yeah, he moved to Cyprus. And yeah, he put this telephone machine on so I couldn't reach my kids. And yeah, he had the restraining order. But he wasn't doing anything to make peace or get an agreement or to see that I saw the kids at all.
Okay.
So, you're trying to.
Excuse me, Mrs. Broderick, thank you. You've answered the question. Well, perhaps it'd be appropriate to take a break, Your Honor, so the witness can compose herself.
Do you want a break, Ms. Broderick?
No, I'm fine.
Please help you. Ms. Broderick?
I have something,
Okay,
thank you.
okay. She just says she doesn't need a break. Go ahead.
It was after you drove the car through the front door when Kim and Lee were home, and it was after you began leaving the messages on the answering machine in 1986 when the psychologist again recommended that the children perhaps would be better off if they got out of town, correct?
How would I know any of that? No psychologist ever spoke to me.
Are you saying Dr. Sparta never spoke to you?
Not that I can
I have
recall.
an objection as to the form of the question.
Sustained. Let's rephrase it.
You never had any conversations with Dr. Sparta about the children?
I called him a few times to meet with him and talk with him, but I don't remember that. No, I never met him. I never saw him.
Okay.
And we may have had a conversation on the phone that I initiated because I wanted to talk to him, but I don't remember that he recommended those sorts of things to me.
Isn't it true that Dr. Sparta specifically called you because he wanted to get your input, he wanted to get your help with doing something for these kids, and you refused?
I don't remember that, no, because it was my feeling that I wanted to get involved with Dan and with the children in therapy, always.
Do you recall Dr. Jacobson trying to get you and Dan involved with therapy with the kids and you refusing?
Dr. Jacobson definitely tried to get Dan involved in therapy years before, and Dan would not come in.
I'm talking about in 1985.
No, I wouldn't have refused that. I mean, I don't remember that he recommended that. I don't remember that he ever called Dan. I don't remember that ever happening.
And you're saying that you don't remember Dr. Sparta ever calling you and trying to get you involved, and all you wanted to do with Dr. Sparta was tell him how awful you thought Dan Broderick was?
I don't remember him ever offering me to come speak to him. I wanted to come speak to him, but I was very wary of Dan's expert witnesses being hired for the adversarial legal system and not for straight out innocuous therapy.
And that's what you're saying he did with Dr. Sparta when he hired Dr. Sparta? Before the divorce,
Yes.
he was hiring him to be an adverse witness?
Yes, because he was referred to Dr. Sparta by his divorce attorney, and that's the way divorce attorneys work.
To
Yes.
get help for the kids?
No.
Okay, well, if you never talked to Dr. Sparta, how do you know
I'm
what
so
he was
sorry.
hired for and what he was trying to do on
Okay.
behalf of your children?
Because I've been in
Man.
the system long enough to know how it works now, that lawyers have particular psychologists and experts that
There's
they
a
hire.
fax
and
coming
they-
in, and I've been muted. How long have I been muted? Oh, for fuck's sake. That's a long time. Oh, my God. Okay, so what I was bringing up was that first Emma Gatewood's comment. Not first, but that's the last thing I said, so it's the first thing I remember. Emma Gatewood, who is new to the chat, welcome. She reminds me so much of Sarah, like an upper middle class educated version of Sarah. I'm going to go full screen to this to apologize to you guys for... Okay, yeah, maybe I am a little bit more tired than I initially thought. Emma Gatewood brings up a great point, because that's the reason why I was interested in covering this trial. I saw so many similarities between Sarah's behavior and Betty's legitimate grievances. So, not saying that she's legitimized to do what she did, but there was a lot of things she had a good reason to be upset about, quite apart from how she reacted to it. So, but Sarah, she has almost the same grievances with no connection to them. She's just taken them. So I was just speculating on the math, and Sarah is 10-10-7-7, so she would have been 14 when this trial was on TV. Probably, not of age where she was big on watching the news and whatever, but the prevailing sentiment of, Betty's fighting for women and, scorned women everywhere, or uniting against, or uniting behind Betty, may have been the seeds of Sarah's entitlement, where she, basically took on some of these grievances, because she would have been 12 when the murders happened, 14 by the second trial. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's an inkling of the Betty Broderick trial in her nurture that led her towards some of her testimony, because it's eerie how much the words coming out of Betty's mouth and even some of the way it's delivered matches Sarah, if not word for word, emotion for emotion. And when Betty's testifying, she's channeling authentic sadness. Like there's a genuineness, there's an authenticity to her testimony that didn't exist for Sarah. And again, I'm not saying that Betty's testimony is 100%, she should have been let off. But compared to Sarah's, Betty's testimony is almost what Sarah thought her testimony would come off like. Which again is weird to, if she really thought that was the case. Betty got convicted of second-degree murder. So if your whole plan was to be as empathetic as Betty, you rolled your bet on the wrong horse there, Sarah. Let's hear more of Betty, and sorry about the mute. Thank you. Hello. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true too, and I know that as far as Canada goes, when my parents were split up, it was also difficult for my mom to get anything until it had completed in court, and then the garnishes went in. So prior to that, if my dad said he didn't have enough money to pay, what do? You just put it on the, okay, that's owed money, but now you don't have it to pay for that month. And that did happen. So, it was a different time in the mid 80s. A to B speculates, I wonder if Sarah's mom was following Betty's case, or had her mom passed by then. I think that her grandparents were still with her until she was 40, so I'd hope. But Sarah did claim a lot of tragedy. Isn't everyone I know dead? Well, they're all dead to you because you've left them behind in a narcissistic rage. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Hello Baby says, besides, my mom at the time would not have actually bought me anything. She would have used support towards bills, but as I said, she had a man to pay half the mortgage. It reminded me just a little bit. I remember initially hearing what the child support was, and I thought I should just get that. Like, why do you get the child support? I'm the child. I was a child. I really was. And they keep glossing over he didn't want you to use bad words around the kids, but the reality of that is that he was deducting from what they agreed would be her support for swear words, to the point where Betty owed him occasionally for some months. And it's a weird, arbitrary thing for a spouse to put on the other spouse. Can't see or hear the trial. Oh, because I'm on. Oh my God.
Negative $1,300.
Okay, we're going to rewind that a little bit.
Money. He didn't tell you you owed him $1,300. In fact, he paid your mortgage bill, he paid your gas bill, and he sent you a check for $2,300.
At least you could hear it though, right?
And I would object since that's not.
Could you hear it? No, you couldn't hear it either.
I assume that's what's
because I had it on a different channel.
indicated in the letter.
Not only was that minus, excuse me.
Okay, the good news is we're only 3 minutes into the new footage. Everything up to now has been stuff that we watched yesterday. If you were here yesterday, if you weren't here yesterday and you're on the replay crew, watch the end of yesterday's video rather than the beginning of this one as soon as the parole video stops. I'm going to put this on to where we ended yesterday, and we'll all just pretend that we're starting fresh.
To take them with me, ever. And after what Dan did in February of '85, cutting us off without a house or any income, I didn't think he wouldn't do it again. I thought he would do it again.
It wasn't until September, October, November of '86, after living through this of 18 months worth of the vandalism, of the obscene phone calls, of attempting to get a restraining order, of attempting to get you served with a contempt.
Now, Betty could have stopped swearing.
Restraining order.
She could
At
have.
that point that he withheld some money from the voluntary support, correct?
Where are you?
September, October, November of
86.
1986.
There was no vandalism ever in the Cypress house, except for the day that he sold the house and I bumped the car into his front door. There was never any.
She keeps
claim to
minimizing it.
vandalism there again.
The day I bumped the car into the front door, like she just, pulled too far forward in the driveway and tapped the garage door. The swearing, the worst Betty looked on the swearing was the phone call with her son Danny that was recorded, and Danny's crying, like, just please stop saying the bad words. We just want to come live with you, Mom. And it sounded awful. And Betty had a sound in her voice like she knew that this was a game that Dan was playing, or at least thought it, and wouldn't play the game. Was like, I'm not going to stop swearing because your dad's girlfriend's a cunt sucker and your dad's a motherfucker, and not motherfucker, probably a cunt sucker fucker. In any case, she was using incredibly vulgar language with her child who was crying. Even if Betty did think he was being set up by Dan, it's still, totally unacceptable, and shows how driven her rage was, that she couldn't dial it in. Even if she knew she was being set up, she was like, I'm not going to do, I know what you're trying to make me do. I'm not going to do it, you fucking, and just swearing. That said, spouse shouldn't have the right to deduct your check for swearing, because, if that was the case, Sarah would owe Brian about $67,000 by now.
Was it September, October, and November of 1986 when he finally withheld some money from your voluntary support?
I know he did it during those months, but I don't think it was the first time.
And you've talked about this letter that he sent you that was that had a balance of minus $1,300, correct?
Yes, the month before was 400 or something, and
May I have marked, Your Honor, as People's Exhibit
78.
A letter dated October 31st, 1986.
Somewhere.
I do have to credit some past failures on live streams, and not really failures because you learn more from your mistakes than your successes. But my big live
You
stream
could just look at this letter for me.
attempt,
Identify it as the letter that you've been referring to, where there was a negative balance of $1,300.
with Cowboy Criminology kind of tempered me to the point where anything can go wrong now, and I can just roll with it as long as I don't.
And it is true that even though he was,
As long as I don't host a bunch of people who nobody can hear while they're on screen.
attempting to get you to stop the vulgar words that you were using with the kids, that he did pay for your mortgage that month, that he did pay for your gasoline bill that month, that he did pay a $430 bill at the Polo store, and that he also did send you your Campstead check for $2,300, correct? So what? Well, it wasn't really a negative $1,300, was it? He didn't send you negative money. He didn't tell you you owed him $1,300. In fact, he paid your mortgage bill, he paid your gas bill, and he sent you a check for $2,300.
Absolutely.
Your Honor, and I would object, this is facts, not evidence.
Yeah.
Overruled. I assume that's what's indicated in the letter. Exhibit
Not
78.
only was that minus,
Excuse me.
Is that what's in?
It's getting contentious. Play back that little exchange.
You owed him $1,300. In fact, he paid your mortgage bill, he paid your gas bill, and he sent you a check for $2,300.
absolutely.
Your Honor, and I would object, this is facts, not evidence.
Overruled. I assume that's what's indicated in the letter. Exhibit
Not
78.
only was that minus,
Excuse me.
Is that what's indicated in Table 78?
That's Exhibit 78, yes.
Your Honor, it says that she owes, it's minus $1,300.
The letter
The-
speaks for
the letter-
itself.
Best evidence for the letter is what the letter says.
And you also received a check from Dan Broderick for $10,000 in November of 1986 so that you could cover expenses.
was that the advance on community that Mr. Hargreaves got?
Yes?
Well, that's my money that he's sending me as an advance on community. It wasn't a support payment. So it was my money that he forwarded to me.
There was a stipulation that Mr. Hargreaves got for you because you were claiming you didn't have enough money in November of 1986, so that Dan Broderick would pay you $10,000, correct?
And another 10 to Mr. Hargreaves of community property, right? I believe that's at the same time.
Your Honor, I have marked as People's Exhibit 79, a stipulation in order.
So Mark,
Yeah, hello, baby. We've speculated the
If you could simply
prosecutor
identify that, is that a stipulation for you to receive $10,000?
is really working
November
at
of 1986?
Lady Di style here. Big belt to get that.
There was also
Hourglass
another
with a pencil
stipulation
thin
that
figure.
Mr. Hargreaves got for you, for Dan Broderick to send you $4,300, $2,000 towards the Christmas trip, another $2,300, as well as $10,000 for Mr. Hargreaves' attorney's fees, correct?
I don't know what happened with that. That was very confusing, but I don't think I got that money, and we didn't go on the Christmas trip.
Well, you got the $10,000 in November of 1986, didn't you?
Yes, that was my money, that he was finally, of all the community, he was going to let me have $10,000 of my money.
Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest thing that we got to remember in chat. As big as these numbers sound, especially when modified for today's dollars, it still isn't anything close to half of what Dan was earning, and thereby half of what Betty should have expected. So I've made the argument many times in this stream, and I don't mind bringing it up again. Be happy with what you got, fight for what you deserve, but fight legally for it, and find a way to be happy with the things you have. Because if you're always chasing what you're owed, what somebody else, or even what you're deserved, but fight legally for it, and it can't be the be all end all of your life, or you'll make decisions like Betty did. You'll find yourself fueled by rage rather than by the things that make you happy. And I think there is a certain point where there was no amount that could have made Betty happy. It's not like, Dan could have said, okay, I'll give you 55% of my income. Now, bygones be bygones. I think things had really gone so bad with the constant back and forth between those two that there was no recovery for Betty. And I don't think it justifies the actions, but I could be persuaded that it maybe brings it down to a manslaughter. I could be. I'm not at this point, but we'll give Betty more time to to fight for it. But I just get it a little bit. I can see how, when on paper, you put in the work, you put in the sweat equity to deserve half like anyone else. If she was married to a guy making, double minimum wage at the time, so $15 an hour, would you begrudge her for wanting her $750 of it to live off of? Of course, she could get her own job too. She's a capable woman, but that, I don't know. Just keep that in mind. It would be like a celebrity breaking up with their wife and expecting to pay, a working man's alimony. You're a celebrity, you got married, you ditched your wife, you pay half, just like I pay half if I did such a thing. And that's why I didn't get married.
And it was November of, let's just have this identified. People's 80-year honor, check 32 Elizabeth Broderick, dated November 13th, 1986.
So, Mark.
So for perspective, Dan might have been making about $1 million a year at that time. Betty claimed it was as high as $3 million, but I was reading an independent report that estimated it at about $1 million for the time. So if that's the case, that's about 87,000 87,000 a month. So, it's a significant amount. And, when she finally did get the 16,000 from court, still that's a nice amount, and you can definitely, I could live off of it now, but it's not half of 87,000.
Is that the check that you received for $10,000?
I guess. It's one of them, yeah.
That's exactly it, Kelly.
Written to you from Dan Broderick.
Kelly says she had a narcissistic injury when he left her. She would have raged no matter what the circumstances. She would have found justification, in my opinion. And Kelly, you may have inadvertently argued towards the manslaughter rather than second-degree murder, because that is the sort of thing that I think the defense needs to prove, is that Betty was forever changed by the relationship with Dan. She was one person before the marriage, and she was a significantly different person after the divorce. So, it's not evidence of that, but it gets towards that evidence that they need to show if they were trying to get down to a manslaughter versus second-degree murder. So, I love this chat.
And is it endorsed on the back by yourself?
Right. And it says community property distribution on the bottom.
Yeah, what do you write on the check?
No way, AH.
And what does AH mean?
Asshole.
You wrote little notes like that on all the checks that Dan Broderick sent.
Only when I
you.
thought I was being cheated like this, yes.
Well,
I got cheated out of $20,000 in one day with Mr. Hargreaves, and it was a huge mistake. Dan Broderick was not supposed to be paying my support with community property. Those are two separate things.
Were prenups even a thing when they got married? I believe they got married. Let's see, they were married for 16 years. The divorce was 85. So it would have been 1969 when they got married. I don't think prenups were a thing. I think men had all the power and didn't need prenups.
Explained to Mr. Hargreaves that you didn't have any money to live off of in October, November, December of January 1986. And that's why you needed some money. You needed the $10,000 or any money from Dan Broderick, correct?
Yeah, and it's Christmas time again, too. This always pops up in November.
The prenup always reminds me of Seinfeld when George was looking for ways to get out of his marriage, and somebody said, as Kramer says, ask her to sign a prenup. Women hate. She'll break up with you for asking to sign a prenup. So George is like, yeah, Yeah, that'll get me out. That's perfect. Thank you, Kramer. And then he suggests it, and his wife is like, I make way more than you do. Yeah, bring me the papers.
And you didn't have enough money that year to take the children for Christmas because you didn't have enough money to go skiing, correct?
The children went skiing every year at Christmas. Dan took them the previous year, so I thought I'd take them this year. Plane tickets, lift tickets, hotel rooms, etc. cost a lot of money. Dan said he'd give me the money to pay for a ski trip. I made the reservations in Utah, just like where he went in '85. I made the reservations, and then when he went to give me the money for the ski trip, he sent $2,000. And
Which
I
is
said,
what you had agreed on. You had agreed on
$2,000 wouldn't even get us on the plane, much less lift tickets and a hotel and everything.
So you wanted to go on a ski trip. In order to take the children for Christmas of that year, you wanted to go on a ski trip, and you had to have Dan Broderick pay you more money because $2,000 wasn't enough to do it.
No, that's not really it. The kids want to go on a ski trip. And if they came with me, they could go on a ski trip if I had enough money. If I didn't have enough money, they should stay with him and go on a ski trip.
Okay. And
It's the only time of the year they can go.
you refused to take them for that Christmas because you claimed you didn't have enough money to take them on the ski trip.
I couldn't afford that much money out of the budget that I had at that time. I couldn't afford over $10,000 for a week of skiing.
Your Honor, may I have marked as People's Exhibit 81?
I spent $10,000 on a week of skiing. I wouldn't have had $10,000 to go for my own week of skiing.
A series of 22 checks from September to December of 1986.
So, Mark,
Look at this smirking and smiling. Like that's again some of that Sarah, where for Betty it's that justification and knowing. For Sarah, it's just incredible to think that she has woven such an intricate web of lies in her own head that she could be like, yeah, I'm killing it here. I'm delivering my story and they're all eating it up. I think Betty has more reason to think that, especially because she did have a hung jury at her last trial. But the smug doesn't look good on either of them in this setting.
If we could just go through these checks, Mrs. Broderick, and if you could identify them as checks that you wrote on your account.
Good
First one
morning,
dated
Ocean.
September 3rd, 1986. Is that a check for $1,000 to Saks Fifth Avenue?
A charge payment, yeah.
September 2nd, 1986. Is that a check for $511 to Bullock's?
Yes.
September 2nd, 1986. Is this a check for $1,000 to Home Federal on your MasterCard?
Right.
September 3rd, 1986. A check for $1,000 on Great American MasterCard?
Right.
October 2nd, 1986, a check for $1,199 to Saks Fifth Avenue.
Right.
October 2nd, 1986, a check for $500 to Great American on your MasterCard.
Right. These are all charge payments.
October 5th, 1986, a check for $200 to Home Federal.
Right.
November 6th, 1986, a check for $500 to Nordstrom's.
Right.
November 6th, 1986, a check for $700 to Magnin.
Yes.
November 6th, 1986.
Betty's organizing them.
$2,000 to Saks Fifth Avenue.
Yes.
November 6th, 1986, check for $1,000 to Great American. November 6th, 1986, another $1,000 to Home Federal.
Yes. I'm sorry.
November 25th, 1986, a check for $561.80 to Seafood Boutique.
Yes.
December 1st, 1986, a check.
Not my lover. I'll agree with this, that the post is, and I'll just read it as it is, her swearing and threats were abuse too. Not sure why that gets minimized and the focus is always on how he fined her for swearing, as if her verbal abuse was nothing. And I will agree in that, especially in the phone call, the use of cursing when your child is crying and just begging you not to, that's a little sick. I didn't like it. But as far as the cursing around, like it almost, let's put the Sarah example again. Do you think that's because you're allowing him to curse on the phone, Brian? Like, it sounds ridiculous from her trying to police Brian's swearing, right? So I think as the person who's doing the swearing, nobody's going to like somebody saying, don't swear. I'm going to fine you $20 whenever you say a swear word. It's like, who the fuck are you to tell me what to say? It instantly makes me want to swear. If somebody was to, I'm offended by your swearing. That said, if they say it the right way and just say, Dan, you're an intelligent guy. You've got a lot of vocabulary. Why do you need to use the swear word so often? A little bit easier for me to go, you know what? You're right. I do have a great vocabulary. Thank you. I'm going to try and use my loquacious talking abilities to expand upon my cavalcade and plethora of words in my quiver.
For $500 to Nordstrom?
Yes.
December 1st, 1986, a check for $1,000 to Magnin?
Yes.
December 1st, 1986, a check for $1,500 to Saks?
Yes.
Yeah, she's got
December
good taste,
1st,
Charles.
1986, a check for $1,000 to Home Federal?
Yes.
December 1st, 1986, a check for $1,000 to Great American?
Yes.
January 1st, 1987, a check for $1,000 to Saks Fifth Avenue?
Yes.
January 1st, 1987, a check for $1,000 to Magnin?
Yes.
January 1st, 1986, a check for $980 to Bowers Jewelry Store?
Yes. Are these?
January 1st, 1987, a check to Great American for $1,000.
I love how Betty's organizing the paperwork. Like, she can't help it. This isn't her evidence. The prosecutor's going to take it away, but she wants to sort them out still.
So these are 86 and 87.
Instantly, the prosecutor unshuffles them. I don't care how you organize these.
It was on November 1st, 1986, that you went over to his house to confront him and you were arrested, correct?
Yes.
And you had previously testified that the reason that you went over there was because of receiving this negative $1,300 letter. That was what made you so angry.
He made.
Yeah, Claire says, I wonder if they're organized by date or amount. And Betty probably organized them by, the best store to the second best store to the third best. Like, okay, Saks, then Nordstrom, then First Avenue or whatever, the First Central. Sounded like a bank, but shows how little I know about high-end shopping.
Told me on the phone that morning that I wasn't getting any money that month.
Isn't it true that you previously testified that the reason you went over there was because you had received that letter that showed a negative $1,300 balance and that's what made you so angry?
I knew that I was getting minus $1,300. That's what he told me. I don't know if I don't remember having the letter in my hand, but that's what he told me because of the fines of going to his house when he was in Europe and calling him names on the phone.
That's not what you testified to before, though, was it? It was because you said that you had received that letter. You'd received the negative $1,300 letter, and that's what you were so angry about, and that's why you went over there. You're obviously angry about something.
I went over there because he told me I was getting minus $1,300. I don't know if it was in the letter or in person, but that's what he told me. And I went over there and said, how can I, pay the bills and live? And the previous month I only got $1,000 something, and the next month I only got $454.
But you didn't receive that negative $1,300 until November the 9th, a whole week after November the 1st.
No, I don't know. I would have had it before then. What's the date on it?
This assumes facts not in evidence. The district attorney's already testified she got the payment every week, beginning of every month.
It's the same.
First week.
It's the same.
Would it refresh your recollection to see a diary entry dated November the 9th, Monday, in which you indicate money, negative $1,300 arrives?
This is a diary page on 11/9. That doesn't mean that money arrived on that day. I was thrown in jail that day, and I obviously didn't make any entries in any diary.
November the 9th, it says November the 9th, Monday, right next to it. So that's Monday, November the 9th, and underneath that, you've written money, negative $1,300 arrives, correct?
That doesn't mean it arrived on 11/9. In fact, did you show me that it arrived earlier on those checks previous?
No.
That doesn't mean that it arrived on 11/9. It should have arrived by the 2nd or the 3rd. November 1st was a Saturday.
You have said that you were upset on November the 1st, 1986, because Dan Broderick was reigning president of the San Diego Bar Association and was brazen enough to be flaunting his receptionist as his girlfriend at the Blackstone Ball. Talk about giving someone the middle finger. That's what you were upset about on November the 1st.
Hello, Mom.
I didn't know it was the Blackstone Ball until I got over there, until I saw Dan and he was getting ready for it. I didn't know it was that night.
I don't believe that. I think she knows 100% when the Blackstone Ball is, just like she would know when the Notre Dame football game is and when St. Patrick's Day is coming. Like, for somebody who's so organized around, making every holiday and special event special, there's no way she forgot about this.
And I did think years later, whenever that is that you're reading, years later, I thought, that son of a bitch. I mean, look what he's doing. But that night, I didn't even know it. All I was mad about is I wasn't getting any money to live that month. I was getting minus $1,300, and he did charge me the next month, the minus $1,300.
You were obviously spending money to live that month, though, correct?
I had been living on credit cards totally and nonstop since February of '85 when he walked out. I carried at least $50,000 in credit card debt at all times. So every time I got any money, I paid down credit cards, but I basically lived on credit cards.
When you wrote this, that Dan Broderick was flaunting his receptionist as his girlfriend at the Blackstone Ball, and talk about giving someone the middle.
Yes, Mom of Lola, the love you make is equal to the love you take, and the hate you make is equal to the hate you make. The hate you take is equal to the hate you make. That was smooth, right?
Finger. This was November 1st of 1986. It had been 22 months since you had been separated, correct?
Let it be.
Almost 2 years.
Your Honor, I'll object that. I don't believe that was written November 1st, 1986.
Well, sure.
No, I'm not indicating it was written November the 1st. I'm talking about that's what you're saying about November the 1st.
Yes, looking back, that's right. That he cut me off from no money. It was after the bifurcation, and he was treating me like that. And then he's showing up, with his girlfriend at the same time he's treating me like that. I just thought it was horrible. I thought it was bizarre.
Okay, so on November the 1st, 1986, 22 months after separation, you thought that it was horrible that he was dating someone.
That I had no monthly support and that I had no settlement.
That's
22 months later, correct.
Objection. That also some facts, not evidence, is argumentative.
Overruled. That's what stand.
I'm not talking right now about the money. I'm talking about your statement that he was brazen enough to be dating someone else 22 months after separation.
No, not dating someone else. I obviously knew he was dating Linda from the very beginning. I thought it was brazen that he would throw his wife of so many years in jail for simply coming to him and saying, what am I supposed to do here? How do you want me to live? You've got the restraining orders, you've got the kids, you've got all the money, you've got all the control. What do you want out of me? It doesn't matter that he was dating Linda Colquina 22 months later. It matters that I've got no settlement and have no life and no home and no car and nothing.
The only problem with this bit of testimony is the testimony of the police officer earlier that spoke to just trying to get her to leave and wasn't going to arrest her and wasn't going to make it a big deal. And, she's like, no, he will be arresting me. And then the reporter who testified that Betty was not upset. She was quite happy to, I think it was Amy Wallace. Speaking of Amy Wallace, I found there's a great 1990 article from the LA Times. Maybe I'll post a link in chat and you guys can put it into your bookmarks or whatever. It's a really long article, but it was written in the time, and it includes interviews from Larry Broderick, Dan's brother, as well as material from Kim. It's not all from their side, but there's very little of people giving Dan's side of the story because this is Betty's case. So if you're looking for a little bit more well-rounded story of the events from the time, and do keep in mind that Amy Wallace was a state witness. She was called by the state. I don't think she was just volunteered to testify on Dan's behalf. So take that grain of salt as well, but I'll post a link to that.
That's what matters.
In November of 1986,
Hey,
you had no
DBD.
home and no car.
Right, they were both in Dan Broderick's name, so I didn't feel that I had a home of my own or was driving even a car of my own. I had no court-ordered support, so I didn't know that I could make monthly payments if I went out and got a home or car of my own. I had no way to go get a home or car of my own.
And he was brazen enough to be dating somebody else.
Your Honor, I'm going to object.
No, obviously, I knew he was dating.
Sustained.
But that is what you...
Just stop interrupting, because you're going to have a terrible record. You're both talking at once. Just go one at a time.
That is what she's
The smile from Betty, she loves those.
What is that there?
Oh, when you point 3-point back. Okay, 15543. Interesting exchange. She's so happy.
Sustained.
But That is what you.
Just stop interrupting each other. You're going to have a terrible record. You're both talking at once. Just go one
Look at
at a
that
time.
big winning smile to the judge. That was incredible.
That is what you say there. Those are your
What is
words.
that? What is that there?
Housewife's revolt.
Oh, that's in 1988 or something.
And are these not your words?
No, they are
Dan
my
Broderick.
words. Yes, they are my words in 88 or 89, whenever I wrote that. Looking back, I thought he was a son of a bitch. I thought he was horrible. But it wasn't that he was dating somebody else at all. It had nothing to do with it. It had to do with the way he was treating me.
He was flaunting his
And the children.
receptionist as his girlfriend at the Blackstone Ball. That's what
Those were
you're
my
saying.
words in 88 or 89, yes.
And you were angry about that. You were angry about the fact that he was taking Linda to the Blackstone Ball.
I was angry about the fact that he had the nerve to throw me in jail for simply coming to his home after 22 months of separation and the 2.5 years that went before that and saying, come on, Dan, what do you want me to do here?
When
What
you
do
got
you want me to
jail,
do?
You did call Gail Forbes and tell her to call the newspapers, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I called a different girl. Gail
You're-
Forbes wasn't home.
You're saying that you never had that conversation with
No.
Gail Forbes that she testified to?
No,
That you asked her to call?
that's a
Well-
lie. I never asked anybody to call him. Why would anybody call Burl Stiff? Burl Stiff is a party reporter. That's not hardly his line of work. No, she's making that all up. That never.
She knows all the lines. Like, no, if you want to gossip to him, it's about a party. You got to gossip to Amy about society issues. You got to gossip to this guy. It's not the flex you think it is, Betty, to say that you know who all the reporters are for the specific genres of gossip they cover.
Happen. I called a different friend who called Brad, who came to get me.
You were represented by Bill Hargraves at the time, weren't you?
No,
You had signed a retainer agreement, and you paid him a retainer in September of 1986.
I've already testified to that I hired him to file one paper called a response to the divorce. I did not retain him as an attorney on this case, and he did file the response.
You had contacted him, you had paid him a $750 retainer to file something on your behalf.
Right, and he
He
did
was
that.
representing you at that time.
No. I never gave him a retainer or hired him to represent me on the big case. As I've said, he wasn't the kind of lawyer I needed, but I needed someone to file a response, and I didn't know how to do that. So I said, how much will it be to file a response?
He was the one that you ultimately went to go get a support order for you, right?
Yes, yes.
So there was no need to go over and confront Dan Broderick on November the 1st about your money situation.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. There's a retainer agreement and evidence, best evidence is there since time she was retained.
Sustained.
Well, it is true that it was possible for you to have called Mr. Hargraves, who you had had contact with and was representing you in some capacity since September, to ask him to do the confronting or to do something about getting some more money.
I've already
Objection
said,
calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Was there anything preventing you from calling up Mr. Hargraves in November to ask for help?
I didn't want to use Bill Hargraves. I didn't think he was the kind of lawyer I needed. And there was also nothing preventing Dan Broderick from settling with me on any terms. There was nothing keeping him from writing a check.
Mr. Broderick did pay $10,000 to Bill Hargraves for attorney's fees, correct?
Against my wishes and without my knowing it, yes. That was my money that Dan sent Bill Hargraves, the same $10,000 he refused to send Mr. Jaffee for over a year.
That's right. You were angry, you say, because he wouldn't pay the $10,000 according to you to Mr. Jaffe.
That's right.
And nothing got filed and nothing got done, and Mr. Jaffe didn't represent you.
Right.
Then you went to hire Mr. Hargraves. Now, in order to get anything done, he pays Mr. Hargraves to represent you. He pays the $10,000, and now he's the bad guy for paying the attorney's fees, correct?
That's not the way it's supposed to go. We're supposed to do it the way Mr. Jaffe said to do it, is that $10,000 comes out of both pockets, and the judge later decides who pays what.
And that's
Dan Broderick decided that it would only come out of my pocket.
Mrs. Broderick, isn't that stipulation say that it's an advance on community property? Community property is property that belongs to the two of you.
No, it
It
says
was being
advance on
paid-
my half of the community property is what the letter says.
You testified that.
That was a good
Dan,
zoom in by the
at
cameraman.
one point, did take you to see Dr. Zedimer in 1985, correct?
I didn't realize the day we went that he was taking me. I thought we went to Dr. Zedimer in La Jolla.
He wanted you to go see Dr. Zedimer.
I thought we were going together, but as it turned out, yes.
Well, obviously, he had expressed some concern, and he wanted you to go see Dr. Zedimer, or wanted both of you, whatever you understood. There was some concern there about having you see Dr. Zedimer.
Oh yeah, Dan wanted me committed.
Did he ask Dr. Zedemer to commit you?
Not on that day, because I didn't stay. I left. If Dan wasn't going to stay and have some sort of therapy together, I was not going to fall into that trap again.
You know what? That's a great.
When you...
Okay, so in the chat, Kelly says, Sarah thinks she's super intelligent. Do you think Betty would say she's rational? I'm not sure. I think that almost hits perfectly on both their similarities and differences in one sentence, because they're both delusional to almost equal degrees, but about different things. Betty really believes she's sane and that all of her decisions are sane, and nobody understands. And if she could just explain the justification, you would get it, and you would absolve her. And, you know, she's not completely wrong. There are some people who will take her story for that. So, you know, but it's still a ridiculously confident belief that, you know, her facts are right. She's not crazy. You're the one who's crazy. You try and stick me in an institution like it's the only solution. And yeah, she's just not having it. Now, Sarah, on the other hand, thinks she's smart. And it's a little of that Dunning-Kruger, which is, you know, the less you know, the more likely you are, or the less likely you are to understand how much you don't know. And Sarah's a classic case of that, where, you know, she probably did well on some rote memory exercises at one time in school. And once she had to think for herself, she had no skills and couldn't process. Like, it wasn't her fault that she couldn't figure out the answer, because she's smart. So you must be dumb, because I've always gotten A's. So if you're asking me a question I can't figure out, what's wrong with you? And so I think that it does hit on their similarities, because I don't think Betty, even to this day, would think that she did anything wrong. That there's, you know, I didn't crazily drive up into the house. I just bumped the front door with my car. Anyone would do that if they were feeling a little upset. And I think Sarah, to the day she dies, is going to be like, I'm my own best advocate. I'm a great writer. I can, you know, just give me the time and I'll explain it to you. I don't know what you want to hear or how you want to hear it.
Barty testified that you understood that you were getting divorced. He filed the divorce papers on you.
Correct.
So you knew that there was no desire on his part to get couples counseling. He'd filed the dissolution in September of 1985.
But I didn't know that.
You've been served with the papers.
Not in September.
Okay, that's what it says on your board over there, that you were
No,
served
it says
with dissolution.
filed. I wasn't served until October 28th.
Okay.
And I never knew that they were filed until much later. And I don't remember, if you have it in front of you, the exact date of Dr. Zedemer. I'm not sure if I did get those first divorce papers.
Whether you'd gotten the divorce papers or not, you knew by October of 1985 that you were not.
Hello Baby says Sarah is also an excellent driver. I'm almost tempted to believe she is a good driver, because if she was getting that loaded that often, she must have driving instincts, because she had to have driven drunk, right? She's mad that the car was still across the street. Well, if you get drunk at that bar, the car should be across the street as a matter of course. Like, oh, wake up, go get the car. I've done that occasionally because I'm a responsible person. Our downtown core is not far from my house, so I'll drive to the bar and then I'll walk home and then I'll walk back to the car in the morning. But I'm never freaked out. The car's across the river.
Not getting back together. You knew that there was a divorce impending. You knew that he was filing for divorce.
I'm not sure if I did actually know that, but I did also know that I had at least 5 friends, male and female, going through similar things. And it would have...
Mrs. Broderick, excuse me. That's, if you just answer my question, you knew that you and Dan were getting a divorce.
I'm not sure if I did on that day. I'm not sure.
You knew that it was Dr. Gutterman who wanted to see you by yourself, not the two of you, that he explained that to you.
Why would Dr. Zedemer want to see me? He doesn't know me from Adam.
When you went to see him, when Dan took you there, he told you that this is not couples therapy. This is something that I think I need to see you about.
He just wanted to see me for no reason.
No, there was a lot of reason. It had to do with
and
all
Dan
of the
told him that he should,
and all of the horrible language you were using.
This is exactly what Kelly I was just asking about. So this is when Betty did talk to a psychologist, but couldn't use the opportunity to actually, he's an expert. it could have been an opportunity to just say, hey, look, this is how I'm feeling. Is it unreasonable? But she went in like, oh, I know what this is. You're here to call me crazy so it can go on the record and Dan can use it against me. And instantly confrontational. Now, she could have sought her own psychologist too, but just not interested in learning about herself, which again, a similarity with Sarah.
For the kids and how traumatic it was for them, and something needed to be done. Your rage was out of control. Is that not correct?
Oh, Dan felt that something needed to be done about me. Yes.
Well, Dan wasn't the only one, was he? Your friends
literally smoke out of the ears.
Yeah. Didn't Jeannie Milliken and Lynn McGuire try to get you to go to that program in Florida that you refused to go to?
You're a little mixed up. No, Lynn McGuire and Hillary Brady wanted me to go to the codependency
program. Oh, she did.
Because they could see that I was upset and suffering and stuff. And Jeannie Milliken didn't have anything to do with that.
Jeannie Milliken wasn't there and wasn't part of that conversation and encouraging you to go to this program in Florida,
Absolutely not, no.
Telling you that they had talked to Dan and that Dan was willing to pay for it, that they'd already gotten the reservations, that they'd gotten the plane ticket.
Definitely 487 toothpicks.
You refused to go.
Jeannie Milliken had nothing. I hadn't seen her for months or years or talked to her on the phone or anything. She had nothing to do with any of that. Lynn McGuire and Hillary Brady came to my house very late one night around 11 o'clock and woke me up. And they had this scheme that they were going to send me to Florida to this program. And I couldn't leave San Diego. Right. It was when my house was empty. And
5 minutes to Wapna. That was Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man with Tom Cruise. Early true crime fan there.
Everything. I thought Dan would sell the house if I left.
Yeah,
and I didn't want to leave the kids.
You indicated that you didn't.
Hey, Beth, welcome.
You were afraid to go to Florida because you thought Dan might sell the house if you left. Hadn't you gone to Canada for a month? You weren't afraid about going to Canada. That Dan
I think it was 7 or 10 days to Canada. And Dan didn't know about it because it was the summer and the kids were not at Coral Reef.
And what exactly had Dan
Debs for Dummies lost his car.
Sell Coyote?
I told you, I always thought he would. He sold Coral Reef that had 10 years worth of equity in it. This house had no equity. I thought it would be gone like that. I used to joke around and say, oh my God, I've been away from home for 4 hours. Maybe my house is gone.
And it never happened, did it, Mrs. Broderick?
No, he finally took his name off it when he was court ordered, but not voluntarily.
Okay, let's talk about the sale of Coral Reef.
And the excellent driver was also a Rain Man reference, which I am just now getting. Thank you. Hello, baby. Excellent driver. Excellent driver. But yeah, I still suspect Sarah had to be pretty good, even if she only got one DUI. I guess it's a short, it was just cattywampus to the bar, so it wasn't like she was crossing through roadblocks and major intersections. But still, should have hit something, right?
You indicated that the sale of Coral Reef came as a total shock. That was your testimony.
Yes.
It is true that you knew that Dan Jaffee and Mr. Ashworth, who was representing Dan Broderick, had been negotiating for the sale of Coral Reef for months.
Mr. Jaffee came down that one day. He was not involved in negotiating for the sale over months. He came down that one day.
You knew that they'd been sending letters back and forth to each other regarding how to sell Coral Reef.
No, I don't know about that, but I know he came down that one day and tried to strike a deal, and I would not sell it.
May I have Marcus Peoples Exhibit 81?
82.
82. A series of letters.
Beth of the Salesman's watching while muted, which is fine because I was watching while muted for a long time today too.
One dated December 31st, 1985. One dated January 2nd, 1986. And one dated January 14th, 1986.
So, Mark.
If you could take a look at these letters that are letters between Mr. Jaffee
It's a small world after all.
Letters?
I really don't know.
Copies were sent to you, weren't they? Down at the bottom, it indicates that copies were sent to Elizabeth Broderick.
It did say that, yes, but I was not interested. This one says I should call a real estate agent, so I definitely wouldn't have done that. It says have bets called Peggy Chodorow, and I wasn't going to sell the house, so I wouldn't have called a real estate agent.
Every time the prosecutor hands her document, she says, can you look at this and tell me if it refreshes your memory?
And this wants me to sign a quitclaim deed, which I wouldn't have done either.
And every time Betty takes a chance to get in some testimony on it instead of just the refreshing.
Are those not letters in which they're discussing the sale of the Coral Reef property?
Yes, yes.
And the letters begin as far back as December of 85, December and January. December of 85, January of 86, you were aware that your attorney, the attorney representing you at the time, and Mr. Broderick's attorney were negotiating for the sale of Coral Reef, correct?
I don't know if they were. I wasn't selling Coral Reef until it was part of a package.
The question is, were you not aware that your attorney was negotiating that with Mr. Broderick's attorney?
I don't know if he was. I don't know.
You did receive these letters.
Yes?
Mr. Jaffee also sent another letter dated January the 9th that's already been marked as People's 48. Do you recognize that letter? If you just indicate for me yes or no, do you recognize that letter? It indicates that a copy of that was also sent to you.
If it says that, yes.
And isn't it true, Mrs. Broderick, that in this letter, Mr. Jaffee says, I have now been able to determine, after speaking with Mrs. Broderick, the nature of her reluctance in signing the document to sell the Coral Reef property. I hope I can solve the impasse by the suggestion contained in this letter, which has been approved by Mrs. Broderick. It is Mrs. Broderick's contention.
Here, I'm going to object. This is improper, it's improper questioning.
Yeah, she's testifying.
Just going to ask her a question about the letter.
Yes.
You can do that without reading the letter.
Was it not your contention that $47,000 of presumably community funds were spent on the Coral Reef property since the parties separated on improvements that Mrs. Broderick did not approve of? Was that not your contention?
I don't know. I mean, if that was the argument he was doing at that time, that was fine.
Well, you testified that you didn't want, you testified earlier that you didn't want to sell Coral Reef, that you had no desire to sell Coral Reef because you thought that it would be a profitable rental, correct?
I also thought I might end up living back in it with the children.
Is there anything, if you would just read this first page to yourself, where Dan Jaffee sets out your contentions, is there anything in that page that says anything about you wanting to hold on to the property because it would be a rental or because you would be moving back into it? Excuse me, Mrs. Broderick, if you would just read the first page, which is where it talks about that.
And what's your question?
Is there anything that it says in there about your desire to hold on to the property for any reason?
All this letter says to me is he's looking, I'm prepared
Mrs.
to
Broderick,
go forward.
excuse me. If you could answer my question.
I can't answer your question.
Does it say anything in
I
that letter
can't.
about you wanting to hold on to the property, or does it not say you just want $47,000 more than Dan Broderick gets?
Your Honor.
This letter says different
Your Honor,
things to me.
I'm going to object. It's argumentative.
It's not argumentative, Mr. Overruled. Just answer the question. Is it in there or isn't it? In the first page. Yes or no?
Mrs. Broderick contends that, and then it is listed. Is there anything in your contention there that you wanted to hold on to the property because it was a profitable rental?
I don't
Yes or
know.
no?
I don't know. I'd have to read this whole letter and then I'll tell you what this letter says to me, because this letter says entirely different things to me.
I'm not asking what the letter says to you. I'm asking if there's anything in there that says you're contending.
My attorney might have said that I contended those things. That was his argument at the time, but there's other arguments in here, like he doesn't have his 10,000 retainer and he will not go forward on the case until he gets it. That's what that
Doesn't
letter
it say that she contends that she was not consulted concerning any of the improvements? That the improvements were either not properly done or done in such a manner as to depreciate the property? It's her contention, therefore, that Coral Reef property had a value of at least $325,000. The proposed selling price before Mr. Broderick expended $47,000 of community funds without her consent. And I have proposed the following to Mrs. Broderick, and she has accepted my suggestion. And that was to sell the property and to give you $47,000 over the 50% split.
But I never agreed to that.
She mad.
Do you think that Mr. Jaffee was lying in here when he said he discussed this with you and that this was your contention and what you wanted?
Your Honor,
No, I
objection,
explained.
argumentative.
The same.
Friends? That's no way to live, man. No way to live your life,
It is
man.
true that you received $127,000 in cash after the sale of Coral Reef in March of 1987. Excuse me, isn't it?
I don't know when I received it. I did get some money after the forced sale and after I was in the mental institution, but I still didn't want to sell it.
My question was, did
Am I
you
not
receive
seeing Billie Jean?
$127,000 after the sale of that property?
I know I received some money, yes.
May I have Mark Joner as people's next in order?
People 83,
Is Billie Jean in the chat? I'm not seeing you, but I see somebody saying hi.
so Mark.
I'm on all messages. If you're not, that's a reminder that you could be.
If you would take a look at this settlement statement with respect to the sale of the property.
Ah, duh. Here I was thinking it was
Does
a
it not
fan of
indicate
yours.
that one half of the
You're you.
proceeds plus $40,000 was paid to Elizabeth Broderick for a total of $127,784.41.
Yes.
And one half of the proceeds, less $40,000, was paid to Daniel Broderick for a total of $47,000.
At that time, yes, but then I had to pay it back to him, the difference.
Did you not receive this money in 1986?
86?
March of 1986, yes.
Okay.
Which was when, well, is that when Coral
I
Reef was
just
sold?
get
Did you-
confused with the years, yeah. Okay,
Did
fine.
you drive through the front door of Dan's house in February of 1986?
I just kind of bumped it, yeah.
Okay. And you did receive $127,000 the next month, didn't you?
That's what it says there.
What did you do with that $127,000?
It was a community property split. I was not supposed to be supporting myself with it, which is what Dan wanted me to do all along, which is why he wasn't paying support payments. So I invested $100,000 of it in a life insurance policy, and I immediately spent the other $27,000 trying to make the home that I had livable for humans.
You invested $100,000 in 1986, and you spent the $27,000 on fixing up your home in 1986.
These are all
I
yes or
believe
no
so.
questions.
You also obviously could have spent $10,000 in paying Dan Jaffee his retainer fee at the time if you'd wanted, correct?
After the sale of the house, the day that the house was sold, Mr. Jaffee informed me of the 4-hour notice. He said that we can expect this through the whole proceeding. So I said, well, my God.
Excuse me, Mr. Broderick.
No,
My
I
question
wasn't gonna-
was, you could have paid $10,000 to Mr. Jaffee to represent
It's so
you at that
catty.
time, correct?
After the 4-hour notice, I didn't think hiring Dan Jaffee was a good idea because he told me that Dan would use the 4-hour notice at every opportunity.
You basically fired Dan Jaffee at that
Hey,
time.
that's pretty
I never
cool.
hired him, so I couldn't have fired him.
When you told Janette DeWise that you were dissatisfied with his actions on your behalf and you could no longer use him.
I'm going to go back and show that shot. Good for the cameraman for, like when we're watching court cases today, they pick 3 shots and those are the shots and that's all you get. Like if you're lucky, you'll get a fan spinning in between those 3 shots. But that was a pretty cool, and it's, an archive of the throwback of how this machine even works. So the cameraman pulls back and focuses on the court reporter. It's about 25 seconds of just how small that keyboard is and how it kind of blows my mind how they're able to transcribe in real time using, 20 keys?
$10,000 to Mr. Jaffee to represent you at that time, correct?
After the 4-hour notice, I didn't think hiring Dan Jaffee was a good idea because he told me that Dan would use the 4-hour notice at every opportunity.
You basically fired Dan Jaffee at that time.
I never hired him, so I couldn't have fired him.
When you told Janette DeWise that you were dissatisfied with his actions on your behalf and you could no longer use him.
I only realize even now how damaged I was by his inaction. He should have told me the day I signed that agreement in October 1985, the danger that I was in. I did not comprehend that this house could be sold, that Dan could pull the rug out from under me on the money, and that Dan would get sole custody, no visitation of the children.
Mr.
I didn't
Broderick,
know.
we're in February of 1986, and didn't Dan
But yeah, shorthand, exactly. But just crazy that, not only are they keeping up with all of, the back and forth, but there's a record of which speaker is speaking, and it's like this person, unintelligible that, will show up. And, well, I guess she's not obviously typing unintelligible. There's a key for it, but Victoria Carmen spent years on that machine. Or hours, not years. But still hours. It just blows my mind that, and then, that was probably still relatively state-of-the-art technology for this time. think of what they were doing in courts 40 years before this.
Jaffee, when he came down for that meeting, and when he got the agreement, and when he recommended that you sign it, he told you that if you didn't sign it, the property could get sold.
No, he
And
didn't.
so when he testified to that, he was mistaken.
I firmly believe that with my name on that house, that nobody could sell that house unless I agreed to it.
And Mr. Jaffee explained to you that that wasn't true, and that's
No.
why he got you a good deal. And in fact, he told Janette DeWise that you wouldn't follow his directions. You wouldn't follow his advice.
He didn't give me that advice. That's why I was so taken off guard when I got
So
that phone call that
when
said
he-
the house was gone. I just didn't understand that anyone could sell that house without
Well,
my
you were-
permission.
You were there at that meeting, right? You were sitting down in the car when he went up.
Right,
He
right.
came down and went up, and he came down several times, negotiating the price of that.
And I
Not-
wouldn't agree to it. Right. I wouldn't agree to it. And I didn't know that the house could be sold by force in court with that word, the elicer. I had no idea that could happen. And I didn't want the house sold. I wanted it as part of a settlement. I've explained before, it was the only thing I could see that I knew had my name on half. Everything else I had no idea of.
Sarah's zigging while everyone else is zagging. While we're all worried about Betty in the chat, she's defending Sarah. Jay was in cahoots with the scoundrel detectives. Sarah was tricked. Maybe that'll come up in her appeal, which we will see in 45 days. No further extensions granted.
Let this be a good time to take a morning recess.
Sure, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our morning recess.
Love how I paused just before the natural recess.
This time we'll be in recess until 11:15. Please remember the admonition.
We will not be in recess. We're
Matter of
coming
Beaver
right
State,
back.
California versus Elizabeth Broderick. Court finds all members of the jury panel are present. All counsel are present. Mrs. Broderick is present. You may proceed, Ms. Wells.
When you indicated that you heard the news from Mr. Jaffee that the house had been sold, you acknowledged that he told you that he had received the 4-hour notice, correct? He told you that he had received that.
A telephone call.
And you were at home at the time.
Oh.
You were in the process of cooking dinner for.
Swapped out court reporters. This is my favorite anyway. It looks like it was just an afternoon break, like she was gone for a couple hours, because we've seen this outfit before.
Yes, you had your parents over there at the time, right?
Yes, and Brian from Canada was there.
Brian from
And
Canada.
You indicated that you dropped everything and charged over to Dan Broderick's house.
I told him I'd be right back.
You didn't tell your parents anything about where you were going or why you were going. You didn't tell the children anything about where you were going or why you were going. You just charged out of the house.
I think I told him I'd be right back. I have to talk to Dan.
You, your parents were extremely upset about how you just charged out of the house that day, weren't they?
I don't know.
Did they ever indicate anything to that effect to you after the fact?
No.
You went over to Dan Broderick's house because you wanted to confront him. You were angry. You indicated you were absolutely furious at that point, correct?
And when I got the 4-hour notice that, or was heard that the house was sold in court. that
When
day.
you drove over to Dan Broderick's house, you were furious. You were angry. You wanted to confront him about it.
I wanted to know what happened to the house and who he sold it to and how much he got and where my half was and how he had done that.
And you were angry, correct?
I guess so, yeah.
And Dan Broderick knew from past experience, I mean, we're now in 1986, that when you were angry, you could be violent. You could be destructive.
Your Honor, objection calls for conclusion speculation.
Same.
Hadn't you been violent with Dan Broderick only about 3 days before this incident? Hadn't you attacked him?
Not that I,
On January 30th, which would have been only a couple of days before this occurred, did you not attack him when he came over to pick up one of your daughters? Didn't you follow him back to the house and attack him with the metal keyring over the head?
not that I've heard of before.
All new to me.
Would it refresh your recollection to see a report that's dated January 30th, 1986?
I hope so.
Yeah, the prosecutor really likes that position. Just kind of standing over Betty's shoulder in between her and the jury. See a pop-up that's barely on your screens, but just a reminder that Criminal Conversations is hosting these videos. These are from the 1991 court TV recordings of the Betty Broderick trial. Criminal Conversations also has the complete Menendez brothers trial. I've thought about it. I don't think I want to do that. It's both long, gory, and was analyzed a lot more than the Betty Broderick one. So if
I don't remember this.
If I do anything with the Menendez, it might be
I
just
don't know what vacation he's talking about. I don't
taking
remember
one
that.
day of testimony,
You don't
doing it for a
remember
Friday
any incident
live.
that would have occurred on the 30th of January, only a couple of days before this.
Sorry, I don't.
Did you ever hit Mr. Broderick on any other incident with your metal key ring or kick him?
I heard Lee say on the stand that when I banged the car into the door, I was hitting him with a key ring. Isn't that what somebody said? And that's the only thing that I know.
When I
On any
banged the
other
car
incident,
into the
had you done
door.
that at any other time?
Not that I
Had
remember
you
at all.
thrown rocks at him?
Also, the Dateline episode. So fantastic. I'll be posting the link at the end of this show, which will be ending in less than an hour. I think less than an hour. Yeah, we've got 50 minutes. Oh, okay, so about an hour left we've got in the stream. Oh, no, we don't. Okay, when does this... Never mind. Tomorrow's broadcast. I'll still post it, but tomorrow's stream includes 1 hour of the Dateline episode on the Betty Broderick case. So if you want to watch that, might be a good idea tomorrow, because tomorrow's going to be another short day, so I'm coming off of my third 12-hour shift. So maybe we'll really shorten it up. We'll do 2 hours, save the rest for the Thursday night stream, and I'll give you the link to the Dateline episode.
Not that I remember, no.
Had you ripped off his antenna of his car?
Oh, I know he said things like that in court years later, that I'd scratched his car and ripped his antenna off, but
Okay, we're going back a
At any
second.
other time?
not that I
Had
remember
you
at all.
thrown rocks at him in the past?
Not that I remember, no.
Had you ripped off his antenna of his car?
Oh, I know he said things like that in court years later, that I'd scratched his car and ripped his antenna off, but
You've admitted to ripping his antenna off, haven't you?
I wasn't ripping his antenna off. Yes, I had his antenna in my hand when he pulled away, yeah.
Whether or not you recall this incident on the 30th, it is true that you had acted violently in the past when you were angry, correct?
Well, and smushing the pie around and breaking a window, I guess, but he wasn't there either of those times.
And burning clothes and throwing stereos and smashing windows, etc. Those are things that he was well aware of in February of 1986, correct?
Yeah, but well, keep going, I guess.
So when you were there at his house in violation of a restraining order and angry, and given the history that there was between the two of you, he basically asked you to leave, to contact your attorney, that he didn't want to talk to you, correct?
Your Honor, Jack is argumentative.
Overruled. You can answer that.
When he pulled up, the girls and I were standing out back, and I wasn't violent or threatening or anything.
Victoria,
at all.
I
And
gotta
yes, he
break
did-
the news to you. So she asks, who wastes that kind of time on Sarah replays? Almost all of us. That's what you've walked into here. If you've thought that there's something different about this group of Betty Broderick watchers, it's because we're wicked Sarah Boone watchers. It sounds to me like the way you know the details of this case is how the majority of us know the details of her case, and it's almost comfort food at this point. She's the attraction for me is that she's so easy to hate. I don't feel bad hating on her. I've made up about 150 videos that mock her in some way or another, and I still think I've got at least 50 more futuristic ones that I can do in addition to all the 50 things that I've done in the past. Maybe more. She's uncannily watchable. Like there's something that brings us all back, and yeah, that's what you're dealing with here. So if you feel like it's kind of weird the way there's a lot of instant Betty hate, we were raised in hate. Like if we got into true crime obsessively, or even like as a hobby rather than just as something I watched among a lot of other things, Sarah Boone community is really good to each other, but we're really mean to Sarah. And so our first instinct in watching most trials, and most of the time it's good. Corey Richins, Lori Daybell, Ruby Frankie's interrogate. It's really cathartic to hate on these people. I understand a little frustration here, because if you're coming at it from a point of empathy for Betty and we're just instantly against her, it's kind of picture it as a safe place for a prove me wrong. You've got an opportunity with a bunch of people that may from the outset be against Betty, but we're open. We're not going to hate you in the arguments for arguing it. And I think that's one thing that makes following this case with this audience is going to make this very interesting archive, because we're coming at it from a very specific lens. I'm sure we've all watched other cases as well, but we're most familiar with the Sarah case. And so those parallels are a unique perspective on this case that I don't think anyone else can ever do. Like, other people can watch this case, but they've got to bring their own experiences to it. Anyway, little lay of the land that we'll get back to Betty. We'll bring her back about 30 seconds so you guys can refresh where you were. 206.
Windows, etc. Those are things that he was well aware of in February of 1986, correct?
Yeah, but well, keep going, I guess.
So when you were there at his house in violation of a restraining order and angry, and given the history that there was between the two of you, he basically asked you to leave, to contact your attorney, that he didn't want to talk to you, correct?
Your Honor, Jack is arguing.
Overruled. You can answer that.
When he pulled up, the girls and I were standing out back, and I wasn't violent or threatening or anything at all. And yes, he didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want to tell me what he had done, and he never wanted to talk to me. He wanted to deal with me in court.
And so, well, were you angry at the time, though?
That he wouldn't talk to me?
Were you angry there when he pulled up?
Not really. I just, and the girls were there. I said, look, I just want to talk to him, and he wouldn't talk to me. It's the same as November 1st when I was there. I was just simply there.
And the girls don't describe you as being very angry at the time?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. So he asked you to leave, and you weren't angry at the time.
Have a seat in the chair that doesn't move. I can recite the interrogation. That's the first line.
And you left, and you went over to Coral Reef and tried to burn the house on fire, correct?
I don't remember any of that. We went in his house, at his house.
No, we can be fair. We can be fair, Victoria. That's kind of the whole point. We're open to listening, but, this is maybe, when I'm coming at an argument, I don't want to talk to people that already believe what I think. I'd much rather talk to people that believe the exact opposite, but are open to listening to me and will follow me down my paths of exposition, that, hey, did you consider this? Did you consider B? When you think of A and B, doesn't C kind of follow? And, if it's people who are open to a rational argument, that's best case scenario for me. I'd much rather talk to people who disagree with me, but are open, than people that totally agree with me. Now, with the Sarah Boone case, we just, we found each other. This is our community. And, so it's something that a lot of us just know because it was something we were interested in separately, and then just found, there's others like us. So, there's a bit of community building. There's a bit of shared experience with that, almost in the same way as, in the 80s and 90s, how there was, only 3 big channels. Maybe Fox was included as a 4th. And we had the shared experiences of watching sitcoms and, could all relate to certain situations. And now everything's so diversified that it's kind of hard to find, shared frames of reference. So, we're open, but just, I'm sure bias coming in, like all of us would have been excused from any future Sarah Boone jury, that's for sure. But yeah, make your points. Like I wouldn't have upgraded you to mod if I didn't appreciate you bringing in facts from the case I wasn't aware of. And we're open to it. Just not necessarily going to be convinced. It's almost like talking to that Steven Crowder guy with his table. Like, we think all criminals who have been convicted are bad. Prove me wrong. And I think with Betty, you've got more of a chance than with 99% of other criminals to make that case. But it's still a tough case to make. So, but welcome to trying.
And he was saying he was going to talk to me, but he really didn't talk to me. So I just left.
You don't remember going over to Coral Reef afterwards?
I know. I was very, very upset. I was absolutely furious that he wouldn't talk to me, that he wouldn't.
The question is, do you remember going over to Coral Reef after you left his house and lighting it on fire and smashing the sliding glass door?
I know you have pictures of that, but I don't remember doing that.
Hey,
You do
Tam
remember
Tam.
after you left Coral Reef, coming back and driving your car into his front door, though, right?
Yeah.
So there's this blank spot of memory from the time that you left his house. There's just a total blank until the time that you're driving back to his house to smash into it.
And that's just like Sarah lost her memory. Like, oh, I remember what was happening during the video. I don't remember what happened during the 11 minutes. I do remember what happened this video. He was swearing at me the whole time, but I don't remember when. But it was in between the two videos, but I don't remember anything.
I don't know how much of a blank there is, how much of a time.
Well, what do you remember after you left his house? What did you do? Where did you go?
I was just all shaking and all upset, and I didn't know what to do, and I was just absolutely.
Okay, well, maybe we're not fair, but we're at least open. We're probably unfair arbiters, that's for sure. But I don't know. Personally, I'm open, and I'm not. I'm listening to everything. I'm actually trying to avoid some of the links that I've shared so far. I'll watch them afterwards, but at this point, because I don't have too much outside knowledge, I'm trying to get it all from the trial. So personally, I'm open. But speaking for the people in the chat who, I'm familiar with from, being in the chats before I even started a channel, just letting you know the lay of the land. It's almost like if you're a sports fan, when you go cheer for your team at the opposing team stadium. In Canada, most people are nice. You could be wearing the other team's hockey jersey and you'll get a, hey, going to be a tough night for you guys. But if your team wins, we're not spilling beer on you and having fights in the streets because, well, maybe if you're flaunting it and showing your jersey, but if you're respectful, we're respectful. And that's the sort of thing you coming into this on the side of the person who's been convicted. It's an away game, right? But we're good home fans. We're good hosts.
He wouldn't deal with me, and that he had stolen the house, and I went back and I bammed the car into his front door on purpose.
Well, you drove back to La Jolla, though. I mean, obviously you had some
I don't
options.
remember.
You could have gone back to your house where your parents were and where your guests were. You didn't do that, even though you drove back to La Jolla. You drove to the house in Coral Reef, correct?
I don't remember when.
When does the memory pick up then on the way back to Dan Broderick's house?
I don't remember on the way back to Dan Broderick's house. I just remember banging into his door and being careful not to hit one of those white columns that's holding up a roof.
Being careful.
And when you say banging into his door, you say that you just bumped into the front door?
Mm-hmm.
I just poked him with the bat.
Bump is what caused this damage?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what you would describe as a bump?
With a car, yes.
And you backed up and you bumped again, didn't you?
I don't remember that. I just remember banging into the door.
Did you testify that you did that?
I thought it was Kim and the chainsaw noise and all that stuff said that.
Did you hear Lee testify about you backing up and going again and Dan yelling, "Beth, what are you doing?"
I don't remember that myself. If
Okay.
Lee said that, I didn't remember him hitting me until Lee said it.
You have made a statement in the past, for example, when you wrote in your book in 1988, I drove back to his mansion in the slums and purposely and carefully rammed my car into his front door just to show him he couldn't get away with this. Correct? That was your statement?
Yes.
So in 1988, you didn't have any problems remembering driving back and carefully and purposefully ramming your car into his front door?
No, in 1988, I didn't have any problem remembering it.
Okay. You also had a knife in your car at the time too, correct? When you drove over to his house.
I've heard testimony to that. I don't remember that. I don't know if there was a knife. Nobody said I had a knife in my hand or anything.
So you don't recall having a large knife that was found on the floorboard of your car that day when you were arrested?
I'm sorry, I don't.
No, Victoria, that's where we're in agreement. So, yeah, most of us see zero redeeming value in Sarah. we're just fans of hating on someone that you don't have to feel bad because they have no redeeming qualities. She's awful. She's 100% awful. And it's her belief in her greatness and the gap. Like it's such a mind-blowing gap between where she thinks she is and where she really is, that it's like a sitcom to watch. Like if it wasn't for George being dead, just her life would be a great comedy. Like I could picture a sitcom with like Kristen Wiig playing Sarah, just doing dumb stuff, a Saturday Night Live skit about with Rachel Drak maybe playing Sarah. Oh, that would be good too. But yeah, she's, if not for the tragedy of George's death, she would just be hilarious to laugh at. Like if there was a 24/7 camera following her, like some of these in real life kick streamers, I think she would be hilarious. Like unintentionally, not intentionally. If she tried to be intentionally hilarious, she'd be awful. But I bet unintentionally, she would be one of the funniest people to follow on one of those kind of platforms.
Told the people at Claremont Hospital after you were arrested that day that you were perfectly justified in what you'd done, didn't you?
I was furious.
And you felt perfectly justified. That was totally justified what you had done. And you didn't have any concern about the fact that you could have injured either one of your children who might have been coming out the front door when you rammed your car into it.
The children were in the back of the house. 2 of the children were with me. The larger children were Dan in the back of the house.
That's a good point too, Kelly says we talked to Lana. So if you want to know how open we are, Victoria, yeah. Lana was openly supporting Sarah. And, there's a lot of different opinions on Lana too. If you want to see this community divided, that's maybe one of the people that gets you there, because there's a whole range of opinions on her involvement, or, maybe there's agreement on her involvement, but a whole range of opinions about how to treat her now that she's dead and it's after the fact, and, what are you going to do? But yeah, Lana came into the chat. She was, not roundly, applauded, but she was still spoken to with respect. So if we can do that, we're open. Again, I think we're fair. But it could seem unfair for the fact that most people do have their mind made up on a lot of things coming in.
I just left there.
You'd been gone over to Coral. We've driven all the way over to La Jolla. You'd gotten a can of
That's
gasoline.
not open.
You'd tried to light the house on fire. You'd thrown a brick through the sliding glass door. You'd driven all the way back from La Jolla. How did you know your children were in the process of walking out that front door?
No, I didn't. I just guessed they were in the back of the house because that's where they were. That's where they were eating dinner, I think.
The last time you testified, you said, before you were shown those photographs, you said you weren't concerned because the whole house was under construction and the whole front of the house had drapes and there was no furniture and everything was under construction.
That's what I thought.
And that was not true, was it?
I still thought it was like that.
The only reason that you've had to back off on that is because you've been confronted with those photographs. Isn't that true?
But I haven't backed off on that. That was my memory of that.
Yeah, I'll give you that too, Victoria. The parole hearing that I heard from Betty, even though, I don't think it was enough that they should have given it to her on that, it was more than I was expecting for the way it was reported on it. And it's way more than Sarah. Like Sarah would never even say, I have remorse. Knowing that that's like, it's a phrase of defeat. It's what they want me to say. So, at best she would say it very quickly without a breath. I have remorse, mostly for the scars and stab wounds on my body from George.
Time.
You indicated to Janette DeWise in 1989, in January of 1989, you had a full recollection of ramming your car through the front door, and you told Janette DeWise you were proud of it. I'd do it again, only I'd do it better, is what she said.
In 1989, what you're calling a full recollection is that, I knew that happened way back then, but it's not a moment-to-moment
Hey, Bernice, welcome in.
What I thought or was feeling and that happened at that time. It's that many years later.
Well, when Janette DeWise was asking you about it, you didn't tell her that you didn't have any recollection of it, and you didn't know really what happened, or you
She
didn't
wasn't
remember.
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
Did you tell Janette
Oh.
DeWise that
She's just delighted in that sustained argument. Candace jumps into the chat just to tell us we're all wrong. She loves when her lawyer's objections get sustained. It's the exact opposite of the sigh.
slammed your car to his front door to make a point, correct?
In 1989, I probably said that, yes.
And are you changing that now? Are you saying
No.
something different now?
Absolutely not.
And you did tell her that you were sorry you didn't do it better. If I'd known how much press attention I'd get for it.
Right, because you keep saying driving my car through his house and through his front door. That's a different visual from what
Right.
actually happened. If everyone was going to blame me for driving my car through his house, I should have probably driven my car through his house.
Is that what you were thinking? You were sorry you didn't do it better? You wanted to drive the car through it more?
It was
Is that
a
what you're saying?
joke. It was a joke. That if it was, when it happened back then, there was nothing that
I don't
had
think I went
gone
back far enough.
since
but-
then.
Did you consider what you did to the door that day and driving your car through his front door? Did you consider that a joke?
No.
Objection, argumentative. The front door is there. Now it's driven through the front door.
Here we go.
I said through the front door, driving it into the front door. Did you consider that a joke?
I didn't consider him stealing the house from me and refusing to deal with me a joke either. I thought
Yeah,
nothing
we're
was
going
funny.
back a little,
He
sorry.
jokes about if I'd known it was going to get so much publicity, I would have done it a lot better. That doesn't have anything to do with what was happening that day.
You didn't just tell her that you banged your car. You said you purposefully and carefully rammed your car into his front door to make a point, correct?
In 1989, I probably said that, yes. It's that many years later.
Well, when Janette DeWise was asking you about it, you didn't tell her that you didn't have any recollection of it, and you didn't know really what happened, or you
She
didn't
wasn't
remember.
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
That's
Did you
it.
tell Janette DeWise that you didn't have any recollection, or you didn't?
Yeah. That was absolutely delight. Okay, that was worth going back for.
Remember what happened?
She wasn't.
I'm going to object is she's read what she said, which is what she's testified to. It's argumentative.
That last question is not argumentative overruled.
She wasn't cross-examining me about little things like that. It was just a very simplistic, that's what happened that day. Very simplistic. She didn't ask me, what did you remember about this and what did you remember about that? It wasn't a detailed recollection, but I know I banged my car into his door on that day. And I know as time went on, not on that day, as time went on, I made jokes about if I'd known it was going to get so much publicity, I would have done it a lot better. That doesn't have anything to do with what was happening that day.
You didn't just tell her that you banged your car. You said you purposefully and carefully rammed your car into his front door to make a point, correct?
In 1989, I probably said that, yes.
And are you changing that now? Are you saying
No.
something different now?
Absolutely not.
And you did tell her that you were sorry you didn't do it better. If I'd known how much press attention I'd get for it.
Right, because you keep saying driving my car through his house and through his front door. That's a different visual from what actually happened. If everyone was going to blame me for driving my car through his house, I should have probably driven my car through his house.
Is that what you were thinking? You were sorry you didn't do it better? You wanted to drive the car through it more?
It was
Is that
a
what you're saying?
joke. It was a joke that if it was, when it happened back then, there was nothing that had gone since then.
Did you consider what you did to the door that day and driving your car through his front door? Did you consider that a joke?
No.
Objection, argumentative. The front door is there. Now it's driven through the front door.
I said through the front door, driving it into the front door. Did you consider that a joke?
I didn't consider him stealing the house from me and refusing to deal with me a joke either. I thought nothing was funny.
Her book looks
My question was,
self-published.
did you consider
No.
your conduct?
She
No.
answered that no.
That's not a
Just
joke.
Just a minute. You answered that no already. Go ahead. On to something else.
And you knew at the time when you were describing it that you scared Dan Broderick too, when you did it. That was the point, right?
I was madder than heck at him, and I did it on purpose.
And your words were that you scared the shit out of him, right?
I don't know. I don't know if that's what I said. I don't know that I'm sure he was alarmed, but I have never heard directly from him.
We're looking at what you have called your book on page 68.
Oh, there's her book.
Did you not
That's
say I
timing.
scared the shit out of him?
And he came out of the house and started beating me up. That's what it says there.
Did you say I scared the shit out of him?
And there I did, yes. But I didn't know then that fact.
But you didn't know then that fact?
When it happened in 1986, the book is in 88 later.
And you have lied to people about this incident since it happened, correct?
The Michael Campbell thing,
For example, to Michael Campbell, you denied that you did that to Michael Campbell.
yes, I purposely did not want to discuss this with Michael Campbell in 1989, I believe, because Linda Kokina had no business calling a place of work of mine and telling him things that went on years ago, and she told him that I was going to burn his office down and that I was a violent person and I was going to kill him and that I had this machine gun. And I was like, I said, oh, I thought.
You're saying that Linda Colcana said those things to Michael Campbell?
I think
that you had a machine gun and you were going to burn his office down?
She told him I was going to burn his office down, that I wanted to see her wedding pictures, that I had a machine gun and I was going to kill everyone at her wedding. And I think those are like the three things, none of which were true.
So I've looked up her book on Amazon. It's still available. The first review, top reviews. This is a verified purchase from somebody named The Truth. I knew that the series I watched was not logical, and I wanted the truth, so I found this book. Any victim of domestic abuse will understand Betty. He destroyed her life and made it hell from the honeymoon forward. She still sees her life in a positive light, which is great. It's sad that she will still be a victim of him, and I'm sure that he is now remorseful for everything he did to her and her children. Now it's up to his family and friends to stand up for abuse victims, forgive, and do the right thing. That's a 5-star review for the Kindle edition, or 5-star, not 5-star on the review, but 5-star review. Another one. I have often thought about Betty and what happened to her and was pleased to see this book, to see how her life has been, and couldn't put it down. No doubt, as most of us attest, there are truths and half-truths, but these are Betty's truths. I truly do believe, not that she was crazy, but that she snapped. She no longer had command of her mind or her body. I do believe that she had been treated somewhat fairly. If Dan and Linda had some moral responsibility, at least taking care of his children's mother, this wouldn't have happened. The man you marry is not the same as the man you divorce. I also think she has more than served her time. You hear of murderers and rapists and child molesters, and they don't receive this harsh a sentence. Well, murder, okay. Oh, people who buy her book are supporters anyway. Let's all move forward and let her out and give her the freedom she's been denied for so many years. It is so easy to say I would never do that until you walk a day in their life. You can never say never. 1-star review. She deserves only jail. She took justice into her own hands, went against what God Jesus said. She said to trust him, he will give perfect justice. She is wrong and belongs in jail, and will have justice in the afterlife too. So not everyone's a fan. To me, it really looks self-published. That font choice is a little like the first two choices in Microsoft Word. Like,
the fact of the matter is that Michael Campbell asked you if you had driven your car into Dan Broderick's door, and you lied.
I didn't discuss it with him.
You said no. You didn't just discuss it with him. You said, no, Dan and Linda are making that up. They've been making these things up about me all along. Didn't you say that to Michael Campbell?
I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said I thought that this would stop when they got married, but obviously it hasn't stopped, and she's been calling and people and telling stories on me all over town, and I thought it would stop. And I did deny that those things had happened because I didn't want to bring up the past. I was trying to get a new life going.
And this was an example, though, of what you were telling him was a lie of Linda Colcana, that she was making this up.
That she was spreading lies about me, right? Because she mainly called about me seeing her wedding pictures, and that was a total lie.
When you went
hey, thank you, Carolina.
Claremont Hospital after this incident, you did refuse any kind of treatment from anyone there, correct?
I think so.
You refused a medical examination. You refused any lab examination. You refused meals. You refused any type of socialization with anyone. You made, quote, no effort to deal with what was going on, unquote. Is that correct?
If that's what their report says, I'm sure it's true.
And it is true that you did know that you could get out earlier, that you were given the opportunity to sign papers to leave.
No, that's not true. I thought I was put there for a 72-hour hold. That's all I knew. And when it was time to check out, they wanted me to sign papers to voluntarily commit myself for longer treatment, and I just laughed at them and left. But I had no idea I could get out earlier. If I had, I would have.
Can you explain why the report would say she refused to sign herself into?
I object. Proper reference.
And
Would it refresh your recollection to look at the report that was written. This paragraph. Read to yourself, please.
She always finds a way to testify.
She refused to, oh.
Excuse me.
Just
And that's
very
exactly
school
what I
teacher.
just said, that I refused to sign myself into the hospital, and I
And
preferred to
refused
leave
to-
at the expiration of her 72-hour hold.
Refused to sign herself into the hospital and refused to leave the hospital.
I
Preferred
was
to.
never given a choice to leave the hospital. Was on a 72-hour hold.
Do you recall giving papers to sign to release you from the 17-hour hold and tearing them up?
No. I'm adamant about not signing any papers. I wouldn't sign any papers, signing me in or out or anything.
Requested papers to
Signed.
release from 72-hour hold?
And transfer to voluntary status. I would not voluntarily commit myself. That was the only offer they gave me, was to voluntarily commit myself when the 72 hours was up. And I said, no way. And I just left.
I kind of don't blame her if I had the
You
choice.
have acknowledged that you did use vulgar language in front of your children, correct?
Yes, later on in this whole thing, yes. In 83, 84, 85, I don't think so.
You used
Towards
very-
86, I was getting a little hot. And in 87, I was ranting.
In 87, I let the expletives fly, baby.
In
Yes.
85, 86, 87, 88, and 89, you were using vulgar language, you were using sexually explicit language to your children, correct?
Well, if you the same names
Oh,
over.
are we losing you,
When
Charles?
you separated in 1985, how old was Rhett?
Rhett was born in 79.
He was 6 years old.
Right.
And you even had Rhett call up his dad once and ask him if he had to pay Linda to sleep with him.
No, Rhett did that. I know Rhett did that, but I didn't have Rhett do that.
A little 6-year-old boy did that all on his own.
Rhett is extremely vocal and extremely angry at a lot of people for what went on here. And he did horrible things like that, and he did it on purpose.
In 1986.
I don't know when he did it, but I know he did it. And we have other tapes of him just making a tape that was not on a phone machine with very hateful and explicitly horrible things in it that he wanted to tell his father.
When we'll talk about that in just a second. You indicated that you didn't think that there was anything wrong at all with the language that you were using in front of the children. You didn't think there was anything wrong with calling their father or calling Linda.
They're starting to
You
bleep
didn't think there was
them.
anything wrong with that, right?
Well, I had a change of heart there
Early in the trial, they were letting them fly.
where I swallowed everything and didn't tell them anything that was going on in 83 and 84 and into 85. They never heard from me about the affair. They never heard Linda's name. They didn't know why I was crying and hysterical and shaking and upset and short-tempered with them. And then when Dan filed the papers and did all these horrible things, I figured I'm telling them what went on here, and I did.
And you didn't think there was anything wrong with that. In fact, you said,
I think I
As
did
long
them
as-
more harm by covering up, not exactly lying to them, but I covered up and I harmed them and myself. And from now on, I was just telling them exactly the truth.
well, you thought it was funny, though. You thought it was funny not only to call Linda, but to have the boys call her, too. Did you laugh about that
There
with
were-
Janette DeWise?
Well, there were times that we thought it was funny, but those were the two names that I just used for them all the time over the years. So it wasn't funny and it wasn't meaningful either.
You said before that you thought it was just water off the duck's back. No big deal that you talked like that to your children.
That's what I mean. Over the years, it had no effect on any one of
By the time I was swearing every third word, water off a duck's back. Duck named Sarah.
any kind.
Isn't it true that every single person who knew you and who knew what was going on told you it was having a tremendous effect on these children?
Like who? No.
Like
Who?
all of your friends, like all of the psychotherapists? Wasn't Gail Forbes telling you how horrible it was that you were demeaning their father like that?
I don't know if she said that. I'm sure she thought I was demeaning their father like that.
Wasn't Patty Monahan? Wasn't Helen Picard? Wasn't every friend that you had? Wasn't Brian Forbes asking you to please not use that language anymore?
I'll just address in the chat, Charles Grieve is on his way out just because there's been, there's a little bit more contentious chat than we normally have in a Sarah Boone chat. And I'm, kind of to blame for encouraging it. So you can say it's Dan's fault on that one. But I think that this is an important trial to have different opinions. So I'm encouraging it in the chat as long as it can stay respectful. Everyone's allowed to have different opinions. Some of them won't be changed. Some of them are trying to change other people's opinions. As long as we can have respect for each other and have a rousing discussion that stimulates the mind, it's worth doing. I think so many criminals, it's so obvious that they're 100% bad. And, it's one of the things that attracts me to watching Sarah. There's an argument for Betty being 100% bad, but there's also an argument for her being 99.5% bad. There's an argument for her being 50% bad. There's an argument for her wouldn't have been bad if XYZ didn't happen. So I can see that there's openings for the arguments. I'm not totally convinced by them, but I'm at least open to being convinced by them at some point. But because there are some people with strong feelings, and, a lot of times we approach a trial just, here to mock and make fun of the criminal who's been convicted in a court of law. She's been convicted. She's still in jail. Perfect target. But maybe not such a perfect target, and that's why the chat sometimes is getting contentious. In any case, I really want everyone to feel welcome here, so just try and couch if you've got strong opinions. If you know that you're in a bit of a discussion, respect the person and argue the argument, and just try and keep it on that level, and we'll all have a good time and enjoy each other's company.
I find this so ironic, it's not even funny. The Forbeses are the filthiest mouthed people that have ever walked the earth in front of their children on a daily basis, both of them. And the fact that they are coming in this courtroom and pretending that I'm using bad words is perverted.
Well, I don't think anyone's pretending that you were using bad words, Mrs. Broderick, but that's a given, right?
Carolina. While I was up on my soapbox, Carolina was gifting Dan D true crime memberships to Rochelle, to Crusader Rabbit, to Ashley Lynn, to Flagrant Contravention, that's a great name, and Ken Tu Sukaroi, winner of the March Moniker Madness Dan D Bracket Challenge. What a great set of gifts. Well done, Carolina. Thank you so much. That raises the mood, raises the spirits, and brings things back to a happy place. Thank you very much.
I mean, you're
bad
admitting
words that I called Dan and Linda all
well,
the
there
time.
was quite a bit
Yes.
more than that, though, wasn't there? You didn't just call him those words. It was how you used the words. It was how you used the words to destroy the children's self-esteem.
The children's self-esteem?
Yes.
I'm not with you on this. What are you talking about?
How about when Danny asked you what the name Broderick meant when he was doing a project for school and had to talk about what his last name meant, and you told him that it meant, and when he told you, Mom, come on, be serious, I have to do a
Betty doesn't miss a chance, does she?
a project for school, you told him it means goddamn. Do you think that has anything to do with a young boy's self-esteem about his own name?
I don't recall this at all.
Argumentative, sustained.
Did you think it was a good idea to encourage the children to hate their father?
At which point?
At any point.
Yes, I thought he was being cruel and vicious and horrible to them. And I thought he was destroying their self-esteem on a daily basis. He never showed any affection. He was not at all positive with them about anything, and he actively neglected them, all areas of their life. And I didn't think they should be living with him.
Assuming that you believe that, did you still think that it was appropriate to talk to the children and to say things to them like their father is a cold-hearted bastard?
Your Honor, I have an objection. It's irrelevant.
No, sustained.
It's irrelevant?
So you're assuming facts, not evidence. I haven't heard any testimony like that.
Did you ever tell Rhett that his father was a cold-hearted bastard?
I know that's exactly how I felt at certain times.
The question is, did you ever tell Rhett that?
I don't recall specifically telling Rhett that, but it's very likely that I did, yes.
Did you tell him he didn't belong in the slums with?
Yes, probably.
Did
I
you
didn't
tell
think
him?
he did.
You tell him that you don't have anyone that loves you or cares you over there, cares about you over there?
He didn't. He was being horribly neglected by those babysitters and by Dan and Linda. He was being left alone. He was running away. He was suicidal. He was
Did
depressed.
you think that made Rhett feel better for you to keep telling him how horribly he was being treated?
Your Honor, objection. It's irrelevant.
Rhett knew how
That's relevant. You can answer that.
Rhett knew how horribly he was being treated, and he wanted to live with me, and he was running away all the time. He knew it. I didn't have to tell him.
Did you think that it was appropriate to tell his father that he was an asshole? Tell his father to drop dead?
About particular things at certain times, I probably said those things. I did think Dan was all those things.
Did you tell him to fight his father and beat up his dad?
No, I wouldn't have ever told the boys to beat up their dad. That wouldn't have.
You would have
made
never
any
told him to
sense.
go fight and beat up their dad?
That wouldn't have made any sense. I don't remember saying anything like that. No, I wouldn't have told two little boys to beat up their dad.
Well, you said that this conversation that you had with Danny, that we've heard the tape of, that was an aberration. Isn't it true? You had conversations like that with Danny. You had conversations like that with Brett.
In 1987, we had a lot of horrible conversations. It was a very bad time for all of us. I was completely falling apart. I couldn't get any satisfaction in the courts. We are now into 87, going into 88.
And so, assuming that
I was freaking out.
Assuming that you wanted to vent those kinds of feelings, did you think it was appropriate to vent them like that with your children?
Your Honor, objection. There's no charges that the district attorney is going into. I object, it's irrelevant.
You put the relationship with the children an issue here, so I think it is relevant. Overruled, you can answer that. Do you think it was appropriate or not? Just yes or no?
Not particularly appropriate to vent them with the children, but I think it was more appropriate that the children knew what was going on and why.
And knew, for example, like you said, that as long as someone is it's okay to call them.
I really wish they didn't
And
bleep
when
it
Rhett
now.
would cry when you were in the middle of a conversation like that, you just hung up on him.
Because it kind of leaves it to the imagination. Like, I'm embarrassed. Well, not embarrassed, but I remember her name for Linda is cuntsucker. So that's every time you hear a bleep for Linda, that's what she's saying. I can't remember, like, if it's not motherfucker. I think it might be fuckhead. I can't remember what her name. I know she used the F word, like the slur for gay people, but I don't think that was the word that she would use when she's talking about Dan and Linda, because it kind of flies in the face of them having the affair to begin with.
I don't remember that. I mean, there were thousands and thousands of conversations, morning, noon, and night. Most of them very friendly and very good, about nothing to do with foul language.
No, Lisa from Afroman's case was the Lick'em Low Lisa, but Linda was I use the word a lot so far these podcasts, so just know it's the see you next Tuesday sucker.
Or anybody's problems.
Well, it is true that besides,
Is it bastard? Just bastard?
Comment about the Fords. Didn't you?
See, if they're bleeping out bastard, that's a problem, because I'm hearing something way worse than bastard when they bleep it in my own head, because I assume it must be worse than bastard. Bastard is basically just the product. It's like a son of a bitch, right? Well, no, the bastard is the unmarried son, or the product of an unmarried couple. But it's a male, right? It's not a bastardina. Can you be a female bastard?
A conversation in front of Brian Ford, so you were talking like that in front of his children, and he asked you to please stop it because you were using inappropriate language in front of his children.
No.
That never occurred.
No, and Brian Forbes uses worse language all the time.
I'm not talking about Brian Forbes and what language he uses.
No, he knows.
Did you ever
because
use
it would
language like
have
that?
been very funny if Brian Forbes had said something like that to me. I would have just laughed right in his face. It never happened.
And you're saying that Brian Forbes said these kinds of things in front of his children?
Yes.
Isn't it true that your children themselves asked you repeatedly to stop using that kind of language?
My children didn't much care. They were instructed by Dan Broderick to tell me to stop
Did
calling
it
him
sound
names.
to you like Danny didn't much care in that conversation about the language you were using?
It sounded to me that he was instructed by Dan to order me to stop using the language, and then I could see the kids.
Did you tell Danny that you were too embarrassed to tell anyone you knew him?
Yes.
And you don't think that that had anything to do with harming his self-esteem?
I remember that day because I remember the really traumatic things, and the kids were not dressed properly, they were not acting properly, they were fighting, they were running around being wild, and I was like, you just are not the children that I used to know. You're not the children that I raised. I don't even want to know you people.
When you said that you were too embarrassed to even tell anyone you knew him, and when he asked you why, you said because Daddy's in his office is very embarrassing.
I don't know that those things went together at all. I remember.
Are you denying that? Let me ask you whether this conversation occurred. Well, I'm not really even interested in seeing you guys or having anything to do with that family until you get your act together. Danny didn't respond. I'm too embarrassed to even tell anyone I know you guys. He responded, why? It's not our fault. Your answer, because Daddy in his office is very embarrassing. Why?
Yeah.
Why are you embarrassed to tell them you even know us?
Your Honor, I have an objection to that.
Sustained. It's the way you do it, Ms. Wells. You wanted to read that and ask if that conversation took place. Go ahead.
Your Honor, and if I may have a continuing objection, I'm just not aware of the percent of the count in this case.
I'm not talking about it.
We're not talking percent. I understand what we're doing. The issue of custody of the kids is proper cross-examination. Go ahead.
Did you tell Danny, you obviously approved. You're living over there.
I remember the part of the conversation that you first started. I remember that part, that I was very upset that they weren't the children that I had raised. If this is the same conversation, can I look at it?
Yes.
I don't even want to know you people. Yeah, I
The
think
conversation I'm talking about happened in my car with.
Carolina hits it, and this is where I think it's a lot easier to unite the chat. To be honest, Dan and Betty Broderick used their children as weapons against each other. Bad thing to do to a child. It causes confusion and lots of emotional problems. And I think that's, if we want to get united again, besides not ironing sheets, which was the only poll that we were able to agree 100% on, which reminds me, I have to run a poll. That one might be one we can agree on too, is that the children are, they're the surviving victims of this, and they were the earliest victims of their war against each other.
Danny, so this is a different conversation. Is this with Danny, do you know?
Yes, that's with Dan.
Yes, I said these things. October 27th, 87.
And Danny was also very, very despondent during that conversation when you were telling him about how embarrassed you were to know him, correct?
I don't remember particularly that conversation. Danny was also threatening to run away and commit suicide.
And did that have anything to do with the fact that you were telling him to do things like pour boiling hot water on Linda's?
No, none of those things ever happened. That little group you're working on there.
Did it have anything to do with telling him that they had to do bad and mean and cruel and vicious and violent things to Linda before they could come visit you?
No, I told them they did not have to do what she told them. She was only a live-in office girl at the time. She was not engaged or married or anything. And she had no right bossing my kids around and making them cry.
So she's undermined.
They didn't like her. They hate her. And I said, you don't have to do what she says. She does not have to order you around.
She's not your mom. Don't listen to her.
Danny was going to see Ruth Roth. Was he telling Ruth Roth about the things that you were telling him to do to Linda?
I don't know.
Well, that Easter that you talked about on Easter where a visitation was canceled at the last minute. It wasn't canceled by Dan Broderick, was it? It was canceled by Ruth Roth, who was seeing Danny at the time, correct?
Objection, I call for conclusion.
Sustained.
Were you advised that it was canceled by Ruth Roth?
Your Honor, objection, I call for consent.
All right, overruled on that ground. Were you advised of that?
No, what I knew is when I arrived at school.
That's enough. You answered the question.
Isn't it true that Tricia Smith had called you before you even went to school and told you that Ruth Roth had advised against the visitation?
I don't remember if Tricia called me, but when I got to school and Dan was pulling away, Dan told the children that I changed my mind. He didn't mention Ruth Roth.
How do you know what Dan told the children?
Because they called and told me that Dan said that I changed my mind about that week. And I said, I didn't change my mind.
Before you went to pick them up, though, hadn't you been advised by Tricia Smith that Ruth Roth was the one that was calling off the visitation?
I don't remember. I just went to pick the kids up like I was supposed to pick them up. And I don't remember. All I know is Dan told the kids that I changed my mind, and that was wrong. I did not change my mind. And the boys were very crying and upset that I changed my mind, and I didn't.
You were aware at some point that it was Ruth Roth.
Yes, later.
Who canceled that visitation. It was not Dan. And it was based on what she was hearing from Danny at the time.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. The calls for assumes facts, not evidence.
Well, sustained on the basis been asked and answered. She said she doesn't recall
She's so
Tricia Smith telling her that.
No, I'm asking about at any point after the fact, you became aware that it was Ruth Roth.
Your Honor.
not Dan Broderick.
Excuse me,
I
sorry.
object. Assume facts not evidence. No.
No, overruled. Did you ever become aware of that? Just yes or no?
She's so emotive on the stand. Like, I wish more defendants were like this, but obviously they're not going to be coached to be like this because it's not helping, but it's great television.
Ruth Roth was
Just
not.
yes or no. This is
What's the question again?
Did you ever become aware that it was Ruth Roth who canceled the visitation and not Dan Broderick?
Ruth Roth could not cancel my visitation. Dan had to cancel it. It was
Did
her
you become
recommendation.
aware that Ruth Roth was the one that recommended that it be canceled?
Much later, but to me it was Dan that did it. Because ultimately it was always Dan.
You did, you've acknowledged leaving some messages on the phone answering machine at Dan Broderick's house.
Oops, for you too, right?
And you did it intentionally to harass him.
Not the thousands and thousands of messages. No, some of them.
Well, let's, for example.
Oh no, here again.
Oh, tapes.
Well, you know about clean anyway. The mere existence is a filthy statement on human life.
Hold on a sec.
You're like the scum of the earth. People like you are not new, you know. They've been around since the beginning of the same old story. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go back to when that starts, and I'm going to turn on the captions, blow up the picture duration of the tape.
Oh no.
Captions on. That frame for you. Bad, except you yeah, that looks good. Okay. Let it run. Oops, wrong screen. Do 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 do.
Here again. Well, you know about clean anyway. The mere existence is a filthy statement on human life. You're like the scum of the earth. People like you are not new, you know. They've been around since the beginning of the same old story. Yeah. I wonder when my kids are coming home. Oh well. Call back later, I guess. Just to harass you.
For the record, what exhibit was that she played from?
I didn't totally hear that still, or
It's your record.
You know, they've been around since the beginning of the same old story. Yeah. I wonder when my kids are coming home. Oh well. Call back later, I guess. Just to harass you.
For the record, what exhibit was that she played from?
That's a good question.
It's your record.
Equals 55 then.
Thank you.
Obviously, you left that message just to harass Dan and Linda, correct?
No, incorrect. That was a call to my children. They were not home. I surmised they were not home, and I reached Linda, the office girl's name on the machine, which shouldn't have been there. It was a call to my kids. But I
No
knew
video?
if the kids weren't there and I kept calling back, it would harass him that I was calling. I wasn't calling to harass him.
Well, okay, you said there at the end, I'll call back later just to harass you.
Well, I called back to reach the kids, but I knew if I had to call a few times before the kids got there, that it would be bothersome to him. But how would I know when the kids would be there?
oh yeah, I was just zoomed in on that part, Melody. So because it didn't sound great, wasn't sure if it was easy to hear. So I wanted this captions.
I love this machine. You suckers, you. Anyway, remember how your favorite case was going to court, the guy who went to court to prove the other guy was an asshole and he won? I want to go to court to prove you're and I'll win. I love it. This is going to be so much fun.
Okay, so that's the one from the opening arguments. Remember that case where you were going to be an asshole to that guy and you were having so much fun? Well, now I'm going to go to court and it's going to be so much fun. Goodbye. That's her leaving a fun message.
Now that was a call that was intended to harass them, correct?
I never picked up the phone to call Dan Broderick to harass him. I called to reach my children. If I got the machine, I would be mad and harassed, and I would say ugly things to him.
You said this is so much fun. You were having fun
Obviously,
reading those
I wasn't
messages?
having fun, but I knew that he would take the messages and tape them and use them against me because that's what he was doing.
And this is where she's very much like Sarah. She just says it right there. I knew he would tape the messages and use them against me because this is what he's doing. Why would you leave the messages then? And you know, they're worse than that. Those are the good ones. That's friendly, Betty. They get progressively more unfriendly. If the ghetto blaster's in the room and we only have 14 minutes left of the video for today, I think we have a lot more to listen to tomorrow.
So that these messages were harassing, correct? You knew that it was harassing.
I didn't call to harass, but when I got the machine, I was very angry, and I felt harassed first because I was interrupted in reaching my children, and out of frustration, I would say ugly things that ended up harassing him. But I had much more important things to do than to pick up the phone and bother harassing him.
You just said it again. I never picked up the phone to call Dan Broderick. I only called to talk to my children. Right?
But if I got the machine, I talked to Dan.
This is a message to... You have one hell of a nerve dumping the kids here on the sidewalk and zooming away without making any attempt to communicate with me about my plans for the weekend.
That was almost in Sarah's voice. That was chills. Not necessarily Sarah's words, but eerily close to her voice.
But if I got the machine, I talked to Dan.
This is a message to... You have one hell of a nerve dumping the kids here on the sidewalk and zooming away without making any attempt to communicate with me about my plans for the weekend. Make me sick, the both of you. I have a good mind to dump the kids back on yours and drive away. Call me, we have a lot to talk about, asshole. And come pick up your 4 children that you're working so hard to have custody of. Congratulations, you can have them.
You obviously were not calling Dan Broderick's house to get in touch with the children on that phone call, were you?
The children were at my house.
So you did not just pick up the phone to call the children. You were picking up the phone to call and leave a message with Dan Broderick, weren't you?
I wasn't calling to harass him. I had real, hardcore, tangible business to take.
Yeah, you had to work hard to record yourself doing your own crimes in 1989. And Betty, you know, she's ahead of her time. Like, Sarah's just, the latest one to the party. But Betty was recording herself admitting to crimes, committing crimes, threats, and when it was during an age where it wasn't common.
Care of with that. It wasn't a harass call.
You said I never picked up the phone to call
to
Dan.
harass
That's
Dan.
not true.
Oh,
Is
sorry.
it?
I meant I never picked up a phone call to harass Dan Broderick. That is a phone call that I needed to talk to Dan Broderick. But I didn't pick up the phone to harass Dan Broderick. I called to
Great pause. Wow. What the prosecutor's doing here is the same thing Chelsea did in Sarah's interrogation. Sarah started going off on some bullshit, and instead of even listening to it, she took her freshly powered laptop and just started pressing play. And Sarah didn't even notice until all of a sudden George's voice is in the background saying, "Please." And she kind of looks and reacts to it and then kind of slow back to Scott. Like, I'm not going to acknowledge that I just heard myself swear at George there, but I thought that was a great way to play it for Chelsea. And it looks like the prosecutor was first one to that party too, because Betty's mid-sentence and she just went and pressed play on the machine. Court reporter doesn't need to transcribe what's playing, so she's allowed to do that as opposed to normally talking over would not be allowed.
I want to get rid of them, but I don't like driving.
Love that. 26 or 56:15.
To Dan Broderick. Pick up the phone to harass Dan Broderick. I called to reach
I
him.
want to get rid of them, but I don't like driving to your. Hurry up, come get them.
That again was not a phone conversation or a message that you left that had anything to do with the kids, did it? You picked up the phone to call Dan.
Within moments of one another on the same day, on the same weekend where I was supposed to go to work and I was half dressed and the 4 kids are on my front lawn and Dan went with Linda to the Ritz-Carlton, but we didn't know that. So he wasn't home.
Did you pick up the phone to call Dan?
To call Dan, not to harass Dan, to call Dan, to get in touch with him.
Hey, Twisted Crimes.
Come get the kids.
Carolina Hurtado. Did you just gift memberships without even buying one for yourself? That's a true star. Thank you for getting yourself on board as well, Carolina, who earlier gifted 5 memberships to members of the community, decided to pick herself up one.
Stop long enough to return my call. I left messages on the machine, with the maid, with the secretary, etc., etc. I have very important things to ask you. You're making me mad. I'll kill you.
Now that message had nothing to do with the kids. And it had
You're making me mad. I'll kill you. If you guys didn't hear that at home. Hell of a message to leave.
nothing to do with the kids being at your house, did it?
No.
You were calling him. You said, stop long enough to return my messages. I have very important things to talk to you. You were calling specifically to talk to Dan Broderick, weren't you?
Right, not to harass him. I had to reach him about specific things.
You
and
knew.
I couldn't reach him at the office, and I couldn't reach him somewhere else, or he wouldn't return my calls. So I called, I guess that's that machine.
You knew that saying things like stop was harassing. You knew that that made Dan Broderick angry. You knew that it was inappropriate.
This is, I don't know when it is, in late 87, but I hardly cared what made Dan Broderick angry at that point.
Did you think, when you left the message, stop long enough to return my calls, did you think that somebody who heard that would be real inclined to want to return your calls?
I wasn't real inclined to talk to him either in late 87, but I was
Was
having
that designed
problems
to
with my
give him-
house payment, the insurance, and things that I had no control over because they were in his
Excuse me, Your
name.
Honor, may I just have the witness instructed to please respond to my question?
Just go ahead.
Did you think that when you left that message, stop long enough to return my calls, that that was going to make him inclined to want to return your calls?
I wasn't
Yes or
inclined
no?
to want to talk to him either, no.
Well, you called and left
These are all yes or no questions, please, Brian.
the message.
I didn't want to
You
have
wanted-
anything to do with Dan Broderick in 1987. I didn't want to talk to him either. He had me between a rock and a hard place, and he knew it, and I had
Brian, I won't be ignored, Brian. Yeah, that works.
to deal with him on certain things because he made it that way, and then he refused to deal with me. And then I
Did
get
you leave that
hysterical.
message, Mrs. Broderick, yes or no?
Yes,
And did you say stop long enough to return my messages, yes or no?
yes,
And did you think that he was going to be inclined to want to call you back when you left that message,
No.
yes or no?
no.
Play.
I have the day off and I would really like to use the boat, my boat. How do I get the keys? Where are the keys? Will you make another set and deliver them over here so that when I want to use the boat, I can use it? Thanks, sweetie.
Aw, well, that one was
Did
nice.
that conversation or that message have anything to do with the children or getting in touch with the children, yes or no?
I would have only used the boat with the children, but not particularly on that phone message.
One of those ones where the recording is worse than the transcription. It's a shame that she's not taking it down. Bye, sweetie.
Your Honor, may I have marked as another tape? People's exhibit next order.
84.
Anytime tell me you're afraid of me. You better damn well be afraid of me. You keep pulling like this. Better pay this insurance bill now, or you're going to be damn afraid of me.
Did that message have anything to do with talking to the children or wanting to talk to the children?
No, it had to do with desperation of having to deal with him.
You didn't have any problems, obviously, asserting yourself when you were angry about something. You called him up and you demanded that he did something. You were going to do something to him, correct?
He never did anything that I demanded. He was just empty threats.
You had specifically been advised, whether you agreed with it or not, by the judge when you went through the contempt hearings, that that conduct was harassing. Using that language was harassing, correct?
Yes, and I disagree.
In fact, the judge had talked to you about the fact that not only was it harassing and disturbing the peace of everyone in the household, but that it was obviously not good for the children to be exposed to those kinds of characterizations, correct?
I don't know if that's what the judge said, but I considered the phone answering machine and leaving me cut out of everything with no recourse was annoying, harassing, and bothering me. More than me yelling back at him was annoying, harassing, and bothering him.
It was explained to you, though, in no uncertain terms by the judge, who said directly to you, Mrs. Broderick, who is an obviously intelligent person, and who, so far as I know, functions mentally in the way that other people do.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. Sustained.
He told you that you were clearly engaged in a pattern of conduct that was harassing and that it had to stop, correct?
And I told that judge he could sentence me to 21 years in jail and I would not stop trying to get in touch with my children, that he had
And
no
there
right to
was
cut me off from my children.
nothing that you were ever held in contempt for trying to get in touch with your children.
Wrong.
It was for using the language that you used, correct?
It was for using the language that I used when I hit the machines that were put there for the sole and explicit purpose of keeping me from my children, which drove me crazy, guaranteed every time.
And if you knew that it was going to drive you crazy, guaranteed every time, you obviously had the ability to recognize it was going to be there and to not use that language, correct? But you did it anyway.
I wanted to get in touch with my children. I was not putting up with that.
Well, we've just listened to several messages where it's clear you didn't want to get in touch with your children. You wanted to get in touch with Dan Broderick. You wanted to make demands, and you used that kind of language.
But
And
those
you weren't out of control in those messages, were you?
I was pretty upset in those messages.
When did those belts go out of style? The full waistband belts. Like, if you put a big gold thing on the front, that could be a WWE or WWF at the time belt. I remember that being the fashion to accentuate the hips to go with the lack of any hips, but yeah, it's not a thing anymore, right? It's almost like a girdle, like you double it up. And
You also left those messages when it was clear that Linda Kokina's voice was not on the machine, didn't you?
No.
Did you not leave a message on June 21st, 1987, where it starts off, "My God, did you say Kathy Lee?
Good point,
I'm so
Victoria.
glad that you're using that name. It's cute." Anyway, this is a message for the, she's such a, well, that's the only word I can think of. There's nothing lower. It's clear that it was Kathy Lee's voice that was on the machine when you made that message, correct?
Sounds like it, that one.
So it didn't have anything to do with Linda's voice being on the machine that made you leave that kind of a message, did it?
What kind of a message? What's the rest of that message? Is that a message
This
to
is
leave?
a message for the,
And that's the end of it?
my God, did you say Kathy Lee? I'm so glad you're using that name. It's cute. Anyway, this is a message for the, that she has the nerve to eat off of, well, it's bad enough she's my husband, but eating off my wedding china. She's such a, well, that's the only word I can think of. There's nothing lower. Does that have anything to do with talking to Kathy Lee?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Did the belts go out of style, like, 3 weeks after this trial? Because this is 1991, so I don't remember it being a thing by the late 90s. So, yeah, was it just like a 2-year run?
Shower now. Where are you? You can make a choice today about staying with me or staying with the sucker.
That was a message that you left the very first thing in the morning when you called Rhett that morning, correct?
I don't know if it's the first thing in the morning.
Well, it's obviously you're talking about what he's going to do for the day.
Oh, no, our hate for Sarah doesn't change her life one bit. It just makes our lives better. Yeah, we have no illusion of affecting her life. I'd be frankly shocked, like, if she's even aware of my community. I do harbor a little bit of hope that some of my song parodies, somebody tells her that, the lyrics to this song have been changed to this, and then it gets into her head and now she can't hear it without the lyrics mocking her. But that is the most I could ever hope would happen from anything I do in mocking her. But no, yeah, the point isn't to change her life, it's to make ours better. Mocking Sarah brightens our lives.
Hey, you just got out of the shower. You have a choice of what you can do today. It didn't have anything to do with calling and not getting through. It was the first call of the morning, and that's what you left.
I have no idea. No, that call is a result of something that came right before it. I don't know what it is, unless there's another message before it or something.
Yeah, there's only a couple minutes left in this testimony here. And then we'll take a preview of what tomorrow starts with.
Your voice on the machine makes me puke, but it's a little better than
You disgust me so much I don't even want to talk to you. Your voice on the machine makes me want to puke, but it's a little better than the... Obviously, you're not leaving that message because Linda's voice is on the machine. It's clear that Linda's voice is no longer on the machine, and you're still leaving those messages, correct?
I think that would have been Dan's voice then.
Okay. So when it was Dan's voice on the machine, you were just as angry and left the same messages, correct?
Once again, you're doing a wonderful job of reminding me of the sequence of things
Mrs. Broderick,
and how
if
these
you could
things
just
happen.
answer my question. You left those messages when it was clear that it was Dan's voice on the machine, not Linda. Yes or no?
That particular message sounds like that, yes.
You left the same sorts of messages at Dan Broderick's office when you called his office and talked to the receptionist. You referred to Linda as the, did you not?
Maybe once.
Just in passing. Like, hey, Scott, fuck you. Hey, Chelsea, you cunt. All right, this is music that I might not have the right to, so we'll skip right by that. Good reminder, though, that this is the channel, Criminal Conversations, that hosts all of these videos, in addition to a bunch of the California versus the Menendez brothers, 1993, which I think was their first trial, and then maybe it's the second. And then OJ was the big one that, made court TV a real thing. And that was like 95, 96. American Justice. Oh, that's the Dateline thing that's at the end. So there's a 45-minute, maybe I'll post a link to this right now. Let me just copy this. If you guys want to watch the Dateline thing, it's 4 hours into this video. We'll only be watching the video on the stream, so if you guys haven't got enough, I copy and paste, yeah. If you guys haven't got enough of the stream, good way to get a little bit more. Interesting. Our poll on parole, our parole poll, fairly split today. So despite, so despite some contentious chat, it looks like there's a lot of sympathy for the chance of parole at 84 years old, which interesting thing to pick up here at the end. Get the link. Oh, I did put the link in, so let me pin it. So yeah, that's the video we'll be watching tomorrow. But skip ahead 4 hours if you want to just get to the part of the video we won't be watching. And we're only going to be watching 2 hours of this video tomorrow because it's the end of my 12-hour shifts. Once we do the first 2 hours of it, I'll be nice and refreshed. And then we'll do the second 2 hours on a Thursday night. And that will be fun. And then on Friday, what do we have? Friday, we've got the defense case part 7. And then defense 8, which is psychologists, on Saturday. And then in the morning, we'll move to judges and friends, part of the defense case. The rebuttal starts on Wednesday. We've got 2 days of state rebuttal and closes, and then we'll be finishing up this marathon on May 1st and 2nd. Friday, May 1st is the close, the jury, and the verdict. Saturday will be the verdict and sentencing. Let's go back to the beginning now and see what we'll be watching tomorrow.
Anything about
You
going
mean
back in?
November and December?
We've gone through this before.
She's on trial. Overruled.
He only represented me November, December for the one court hearing of emergency support.
We'll be watching Betty all day tomorrow and all day on Thursday. Wow, she's got to be... It looks like she's been up on the stand this whole time. She just hasn't changed her outfit. She's had the same outfit for every day of her testimony, which I think defeats the purpose of getting civilian clothes if your civilian clothes are a uniform and everyone else is coming in new clothes. But I don't know, probably too late to get grounds for appeal on that. Let's switch it over to full stream. No, that's the wrong screen. Okay, I'm still down here. Here we are. And to me. So yeah, it's been a fun stream. People have had a good time. We've had some exciting conversations. I wanted to mention a couple of things. So Bernice Conklin did an amazing thing in chat. Who was it that called it? But you always see it in the chat where somebody's like, how do I get gift memberships? And, you know, people explain it and you go through, okay, you have to check this menu. It's by the dollar signs. And if you go under here, you can enable it. It's different on an iPhone, all of that. So anyway, all that gets done. And the member says, well, I'm going to try and gift one more and see if you get it now. Boom. Bernice gets the membership. And it was just like Babe Ruth calling his shot, like picking center field with 2 strikes. She'd already given 2 other gift memberships, and that's how it was discovered that it wasn't enabled on Bernice. So that was an amazing thing in chat. I think that was on day 9. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Welcome to all the new... That was Bella's mom who gave it. Perfect. They're both here. Bella's mom gave it. Bernice got it. And yeah, Bella's mom, just before giving it, said, I'm going to give one more. We'll see if it works for you. And boom, it says gifted a membership, and Bernice got it. And I've never seen it. Like I've seen lots of people, hey, I'll give one. Hopefully you get it. But yeah, that was pretty impressive. That was a good moment to be here for. I wanted to thank all the new members as well. So I called the level the only level. I was kind of toying with this, and this is probably more, I don't think I'll actually do this, so it's better just to share the idea. I was thinking about adding another level called the Patreon level. LZB sent a membership. Who was she calling it for? Did she call it for anyone? Well, it went to M. Leibs. M. Leibs, you've been gifted a Dan D True Crime membership. Interesting with M. Leibs. She left a comment on a Daniel Chavon video. Maybe it was a Suma video. It was one or the other. And said something about Sarah being her own worst enemy. And I was like, oh, somebody should do... you know what I did is I rewrote the lyrics to Lit's My Own Worst Enemy, but with Sarah involved. She said, you should copyright that. And I, ha, 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 and sent a copyright symbol. And then it was 2 days after that I created the Lit My Own Worst Enemy Sarah Boone short, along with Learn Latin with Sarah Boone. And I responded with that in the comments. Hey, M. Leibs, I ended up, making it a video. So now I don't need to worry about copywriting it. So she was one of my first subscribers. She might have been like among the first 7. And still, maybe even my first real Dan D True Crime subscriber, because I had a couple holdouts from my large man, small car pilot project. So that was a cool story too. Anyway, my joke thing that I'm probably not going to do, I was thinking about adding a second level and calling it the Patreon one. So it's kind of like Patreon, but looks like Patreon. And I would charge $3 a month for it, just like some other people charge $3 a month. But you'd get absolutely nothing that you don't get on the YouTube channel. So it would be, you can pay $3 if you like paying $3 a month for your content. I would recommend paying at the 99-cent rate. I'm afraid if I did add a $3 one, that everyone would be like, hey, you said only one level. So I don't think I'll add a joke one, but Kelly says do it. We'll see. I think if I do it, it would be called Pay Tree, like a tree, and then one, and it, like PAY, which kind of looks like Patreon. And yeah, that would be the joke: is anyone who buys it gets absolutely nothing that a 99-cent member doesn't get, which is coincidentally nothing that a free member doesn't get. Well, there's the badges and emojis, but I don't do members only content. Everything I do it for you, to quote Brian Adams. You have not missed the end of Cross, 13 Mandy. You have missed the end of today's episode of Cross, but tomorrow we're going to do 2 more hours of the next video, so it'll probably be a 3-hour video in the morning. Start at 9:30 California Chino time, 12:30 Eastern, and that's Betty. Then Thursday night, I haven't decided what time, but I'll decide by the end of tomorrow's show. We'll do the rest of that video. There's 40 minutes left at the end of that video. That's a dateline on Betty Broderick. So if you look at the pinned comment, click through on that, and that'll put it into your history. Your history. Don't watch the first 4 hours unless you want to pre-watch what we're going to be watching. But skip ahead to 4 hours in, and there's a Dateline video on Betty Broderick from the time that could or could not be interesting. I haven't watched it yet either, but it's there, and I won't be showing it on the stream. Billie Jean, not my lover, says thank you as always for a fabulous stream. Nicole C. concurs. Mandy says, I'll rewind. Thanks. Yeah, YouTube is getting pretty good at getting my live chat replay synced up within 20 to 30 minutes of me going offline. So thank you guys for caring enough about the stream that YouTube is like, oh, we got to get this up here. People are coming. What else we have? The worst part of this trial... Worst part, Kelly G, Super Kelly G says, for me, the worst part is that this trial was in 89-90. Betty was clearly escalating and nothing happened. The divorce trial she was going through from 85 to 89. The murder happened in 89, November 5th, 89. She went on trial in 1990, and that was hung. 10 jurors for second-degree murder, 2 for a hung jury. And this is the retrial. They just passed the anniversary date of the murders. That was, I know November 5th happened because we saw the court reporter with a Halloween tchotchke on her desk. Like, I have my vintage desk back there in the Dan D True Crime Studio. Ocean Sounds, A to B, Tam Tam Namaste, you're all still here in the chat. Dorgan, it's great to see you. Carolina Hurtado, I finally given a membership to. There's no reason she wasn't, or not a membership, a moderation stat to. There's no reason she wasn't a mod before, except for she's such a great mod in so many chats that I wanted her to be able to put her feet up here in the Dan D chat. But everyone who's been coming to the marathon that is a regular of the channel, I've been upgrading to mod, so I don't want Carolina to be the only one in gray. These aren't gray days. All right, I think we're ready. I think I'm ready for bed. What is it? It's only noon. This is a good time for me to get to sleep. I'll be waking up in about 7 hours. Victoria Carmen points out, and this is important to know, the actual divorce was in itself a trial too. The best I can think of, if you want to get a picture for that, is think of the War of the Roses movie. The divorce was at least regional news in San Diego. The car incident, that kind of stuff, that was in, local news. It was on TV. So it wasn't like this just happened out of the blue. It became national news out of the blue, international news out of the blue. But they were already on the front pages a bit. They were already, a relatively public couple within their little fishbowl. So there's lots of interesting layers to this case. I really appreciate the chat. I love the discourse. I want to make sure everyone's still enjoying each other's company. We're here to have a good time. We're not here for a long time. It may seem like a marathon, but we've got to enjoy each other's company so that this can be something that we enjoy in the future and people who are on the replay crew can enjoy without getting too distracted by any moderation issues that are going on. I think that's all I want to say for today. Is there anything else I need to say? There's more people showing up every day. I'm getting new messages from people I've never seen before, non-Sarah Boone fans, so we're going to have to convert some of them. One of us. You guys are fine. I'm Dan D. Together we're fine and dandy. This is the end of today's stream. I'll see you at the same time tomorrow. Chat will stay open for 2 to 3 minutes for goodbyes. I wanted to show... Okay, we'll show the parole. We'll show the parole before I go. At the screen, what screen did I have for parole? That one. That's how we'll close it out. Oh, here we go. Oh, not working.
Stress of losing my house and going to jail and not having a home to put the kids, because if he throws me in jail again, I lose my house. And I was just afraid of...
Mrs. Broderick, stop right there a minute, okay? You're worried about your husband putting you in jail again. Yet you consciously take the gun that you purchased in March, you go to the house, which you got a key to get in, okay? You felt like you knocked on the door and rang the doorbell here, okay? And said, hello, hey, can we chat? You didn't do that. You went in the back door, you knew the house well, you went to the bedroom, it's 5:30 in the morning, and you killed 2 people.
I went to Dan's house to ask him to just give me the kids and leave me the hell alone. This is too many years of this ongoing stuff. And I never got to ask him or say anything. Linda came at me, and the gun went off over and across the bed, and the physical evidence proves that. I didn't think of anything. I wasn't thinking.
I don't want, we're not going to.
It certainly
we're not here
didn't
to
help
retry
anything.
you, okay? But the physical evidence doesn't show that, and you're here on a murder second.
I know.
Okay, you got convicted of this crime. All right. The evidence would show that a different thing happened here. My question is, you wrote a suicide note. How come you didn't commit suicide?
I was going
How come you didn't do it after you killed your husband?
I didn't have
your
any
ex-husband?
bullets. I didn't have any bullets left. I was just startled. It wasn't... I don't even remember pulling the trigger even once. I was just startled.
Miss Broderick, you went to that home
did.
with a gun. You went to that home with a loaded gun. You went to that home uninvited at 5:30 in the morning when most people are in bed asleep. Okay? So you can see where the commissioner, can you understand where she's coming from? She lunged at you. Excuse me, you weren't even supposed to be there. You're in there with a gun.
I know.
So there was some intent to go there to do something more than just chit-chat.
I was obviously not thinking straight or thinking clearly at all. and I thought if I had the gun, I could make them listen to me.
You told me earlier you don't even remember pulling the phone from the wall.
I don't remember pulling the phone, but Dan spoke to me. Dan spoke to me without any pain or any flinching or anything. Dan said, okay, you got me, like that. And I had no bullets left or anything. I just ran out of the room. But that's why I didn't know he was hit or anything was wrong with him. And I thought he was chasing me. And I was running away from Dan. He spoke to me absolutely clearly with no pain. I had no idea he was hit. I thought he was chasing me. He spoke to me clearly, plainly. I have great remorse and feel terrible for all the needless, senseless pain and suffering I've caused so many. I took the lives of 2 wonderful people who were loved by many. For that I will be forever sorry. That was never my intention. If staying in prison longer would change something or bring them back, I would do that. But that would accomplish nothing. I can never undo or repair the damage I have done in the past. My only hope is to go forward in peace and love and try to heal this family.
That's part 1 of a 5-part series of videos. Sarah was denied parole. Betty was denied parole at that hearing. And not only was she denied parole, she was given the maximum allowable review time between parole hearings, 15 years. As that parole hearing was in 2017, she's next eligible in 2032. She'll be 84 years old. Thank you for sticking to the very end. I'm fine. You're fine. I'm Dan D. Together we're fine and dandy. This is the real end of the stream. The chat'll stay open.